Chapter 131. This auction that attracted the attention of countless people and attracted several large and small companies of the Lampari Kingdom to gather in Bana City was actually just a play that Sue-E put on with the royal family. New Flyer naturally couldn't take out an exaggerated amount of 2 million gold coins, and it was like everyone thought. They didn't have the qualifications to apply for a 5 million gold coin loan from the Chimera Chamber of Commerce. This 5 million gold coin loan was applied for by the king in the name of New Flyer. As for the 2 million gold coins used in the auction of the first mine, it naturally flowed back into His Majesty's hands. In the end, the 3 million gold coins that were not spent were directly returned to the Chimera Chamber of Commerce. In this auction, Sue-E and New Flyer didn't spend a single cent, and the king only paid a negligible 20,000 gold coins in interest for the short-term loan of 5 million gold coins. Compared to the 2,300,000 gold coins they earned from selling the second mine, this really wasn't worth mentioning. Of course, according to the contract between Sue-E and the king, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce should have obtained 2 mines. Although one of them fell into the hands of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce through this method, the other mine was still auctioned off by the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce. But in 70 and Sue-Yi's plan, they already had a response to this. If Sue-E could buy the second mine for the right price, that would be good. But after Chairman Morgan threw out these harsh words at the auction, Sue-E chose to give up after careful consideration. 70 gave Sue-E 2 choices in this situation. One was that according to the price of the second mine for 1,300,000 gold coins, the king would pay 1,300,000 gold coins to New Flyer, which would be considered as payment for the agricultural magic machine order. The second was to choose another iron mine in the kingdom and find a way to give it to Sue-E, which would be no different from the previous contract. However, Sue-E gave 70 another plan, which was for New Flyer to rent some land from the kingdom's royal family and use the rent from this land as payment. As for the size of the land, Sue-Yi's initial request was 10 times the size of Bana City. And 70's response to this was, "Chairman Sue, are you crazy?" Of course, Sue-E was not crazy. On the contrary, he was extremely clear-headed. It was precisely because he was very clear-headed that he proposed the plan of leasing land from the royal family instead of directly obtaining the territory like before. This was because Sue-E had specially researched the history of the Lampari Kingdom and discovered that ever since the founding of the Lampari Kingdom, although the royal family of the Lampari Kingdom had promoted new nobles, they had never been given an inch of land. From this, it could be seen that the Lampari Kingdom's royal family placed great importance on land ownership. Sue-E didn't think that he was qualified for the royal family to make an exception and give him land. So after considering it, he decided to take a step back and rent land from the royal family. They were both renting, but renting land from the royal family was very different from renting land from nobles. First, the royal family was the ruler of the Lampari Kingdom. So other than the territories of the nobles, they had over 70% of the kingdom's territory. If they rented from the royal family, they could be more generous and request for large amounts of land. If they rented from the nobles, even if it was the Stag family with the largest territory, it was impossible for them to rent land that Sue-E was satisfied with. Second, the royal family was without a doubt much more stable than the nobles. If they rented land from the nobles only needed a single thought to cause New Flyer to become passive. The royal family was the ruler of the kingdom, so they cared more about their reputation and the overall situation than the nobles. In a normal situation, they wouldn't easily change their policies. The reason why Sue-E wanted his own territory was mainly because the pressure came from the back. Now that the New Flyer was renting Viscount Leslie's territory, although Sue-E had a good relationship with Viscount Leslie and Viscount Leslie was a major shareholder of the New Flyer, so normally there wouldn't be any problems, Sue-E didn't have much hope in this relationship. This could be seen from the 300 slaves that Viscount Leslie had placed into the household magic machine workshop. It was clear that these 300 slaves didn't belong to Viscount Leslie. Viscount Leslie seemed to be dissatisfied with placing these 300 slaves, So he had secretly hinted to Sue E that he shouldn't treat these 300 slaves as real workers and shouldn't let them touch all the technology in the workshop. But no matter how unwilling Viscount Leslie was, these 300 slaves still entered the workshop, and after a month of learning, a large portion of the slaves had grasped the technology. Sue E was very clear that these 300 slaves should have been placed by the Stagg family behind Viscount Leslie. Based on this, it was clear that Viscount Leslie would be influenced by the family behind him. So even if he had a good relationship with Sue E and the new flyer, he couldn't decide everything. So Sue E wanted to avoid a situation that couldn't be controlled. So of course he wanted his own territory. Even if the land he rented from the royal family was limited by people, no matter what, it was much better than the current situation. So even if 70 couldn't help reprimanding Sue E for being crazy, Sue E still insisted on this request. Under Sue Yi's insistence, 70 finally decided to report Sue Yi's plan to the king. As for whether Sue E would get what he wanted, 70 didn't dare guarantee it. It took Sue E a bit of time to finish the auction. When he finished all the procedures and successfully took over the mine in the name of the Frestech Chamber of Commerce, it was already the end of December without him noticing. Signs also celebrated New Year's, and of course they had to take a break for New Year's. Even if the new flyer still had many unfinished orders, no matter what, Sue E couldn't ask the workers to work overtime during New Year's. After discussing it with Hines, Camby, and the others, the new flyer decided to take a break from the 25th of December until the 7th of January. On the 20th of December, the two workshops of a new flyer were filled with cheers, because Sue E announced that the New Year's break was longer than most companies in Bana City. Once it was announced, it naturally received the support of all the workers. What made the workers of the Frestech Chamber of Commerce even happier was that Sue E announced that the Frestech Chamber of Commerce would not only pay everyone their wages before New Year's, they would also be giving everyone an extra month's salary as a year-end bonus. Before this, no one knew what a year-end bonus was. After hearing Sue E personally announce this, all the workers went wild with joy. Because according to Sue E's announcement, not only would most of the workers receive last month's salary, they would also receive half a month's salary, as well as an entire month's salary. In this way, any worker will be able to receive a salary of more than 30 gold coins before the new year. Even if their salary was higher and they worked overtime, they could receive a high salary of over 40 gold coins or even close to 50 gold coins. For these workers who could only earn 3-4 gold coins a month before entering the new flyer, this was a large amount of money. With this money, these workers who came from poor families wouldn't need to worry about their family's livelihood during New Year's like before. Thinking of how they could take a large amount of gold coins home and let their parents and wives have a good New Year's, the workers looked at Sue E with eyes filled with gratitude. In that moment, Sue Yi's image in their hearts became incomparably large. But not all the workers were this excited. The biggest exception were the 300 slaves that Viscount Leslie had placed in. They were different from the 100 slaves under Sue Yi's name. Viscount Leslie had specially ordered that these 300 slaves couldn't be given any preferential treatment, so even if Sue E felt a bit apologetic, he still couldn't give them a salary. He even had scruples about giving them some compensation. In the end, Sue E was helpless and could only buy some small things that could be used during New Year's as a reward for their work. However, even if it was a small thing that wasn't even worth a gold coin, it was like it was hot in the hands of the slaves. If it wasn't for Sue E forcefully ordering his subordinates, no one would have dared to accept it. Other than the 300 slaves, the 9 magicians in charge of drawing the magic array weren't as excited as the other workers. 1. These magicians had only been in the new flyer for less than a month and didn't have a sense of familiarity with this place, so naturally they wouldn't be as excited as the other workers. 2. The magicians had more experience than the workers, so how could they be moved that easily? Of course, it would be a lie to say that they weren't happy, even if they had only worked for the Frestech Chamber of Commerce for less than a month, because their work efficiency was much higher than the students. When it was settled, their wages were actually over 20 gold coins. If it was a full month, their monthly salary might even surpass 30 gold coins. For these magicians who were at most second grade, This was a high salary that was enough to make them happy. The new flyer didn't work like normal today. Rather, they finished some work in the morning and cleaned up the two workshops. They had a meal together at noon, and after eating a good meal, they began to give out their salaries. After such a torment, the whole day passed just like that. After taking care of the final arrangements for the workers with great difficulty, Sue, E., Hines, Camby, and the other leaders of the company came to Banda City. They had them go to a restaurant, and he went to Evita and Akali's research lab. Chapter 132. It was rare that the door to the research facility wasn't closed, so Sue walked in and saw Akali sitting cross-legged on the floor of the living room. She was folding the clothes next to her and putting them into a bag next to her. From the looks of it, she was packing her luggage. Feeling someone walk in, Akali raised her head and saw Sue. She immediately reached out her hand to him. "Sir Chairman, give me the money. I'm waiting for it to go home." Sue revealed a smile and took out a bag of money that he had already prepared to throw over. Akali took the bag of money and felt her hands sink. She opened the bag and poured out the gold coins on the ground. After carefully counting it, she couldn't help but be shocked. 76 gold coins? That much. I say, Sir Chairman, did you make a mistake? At this time, Evita, who heard the commotion, came down from upstairs. Beside her was Steele, who had come to send them off. Hearing Akali say the number, even the usually calm Evita was shocked. "Chairman, why is it so much?" Steele wasn't too surprised as she looked at Evita and Akali with a smile. "Other than the 26 gold coins from last month and this month, there's another 50 gold coins for your year-end bonus," Sue explained. "Year-end bonus?" Evita and Akali looked at each other with a confused expression. "What does that mean?" "It means what it means. At the end of the year, in order to reward you for your hard work this year, we'll give you an extra bonus," Sue replied. "Due to your outstanding work and to show the importance of researchers, the company decided to give you a higher year-end bonus than normal employees. In the end, it was decided to be 50 gold coins. How is it? Are you satisfied?" "Of course I'm satisfied." Akali jumped up from the ground and hugged Suyi's arm. "Sir Chairman, I really love you to death. My parents will be so happy when they find out that I brought so much money home for the new year. Then I really have to congratulate you." Sue calmly pulled his arm back and took out 2 other bags of money for Evita and Steele. Evita took the bag of money and softly said thank you, but she didn't open it to count. Steele directly put the money into her small bag, not showing any special expression at all. Seeing Akali put the gold coins back into the bag, Sue suddenly said, "That's right, there's something I need to tell you. From next year onwards, the basic salary of the 3 of you will be increased from 15 gold coins to 25 gold coins a month." The 3 looked at Sue in surprise. Akali couldn't help but ask, "It's that much? Sir Chairman, did you suddenly become rich?" "I've been rich," Sue's SSS. "What? Is there anything you're not willing to give a raise? If you're not willing, I'll give it to Evita and Steele. You can keep it the same, all right?" No, I'm very willing." Akali quickly waved her hand and begged, "Sir Chairman, I'm just saying, please don't take it seriously." Sue gave a soft snort. He looked around and then asked, "You haven't packed your luggage yet? It's already quite late. If you don't hurry, you won't be able to catch the carriage." Evita sighed and looked at Akali. "If it wasn't for Akali, we would have already packed. It's too troublesome to find things." Akali muttered as her hands moved faster. Since the girls were packing, Sue naturally couldn't stay for long. He said a few words of good luck to the 2 of them and then planned to leave. Before he reached the door, Steele called out to him, "Sue, are you planning on going home during the holidays?" "Going home?" Sue was stunned. "Going home to what?" "Going back to my own home," Steele said in a natural voice. "I remember that you're not from Banta, right? It's New Year's now, of course you have to go back to your hometown. Speaking of this, I've never heard you mention your hometown before. Where is your hometown?" Hearing Steele's question, Evita and Akali stopped what they were doing and looked over in curiosity. "Hometown?" Sue silently repeated this word twice and couldn't help revealing a bitter smile. His hometown was not in this world. How could he go back? Seeing the curious gazes of the three, he shook his head and said with a sigh, I can't go back to my hometown now, so I'll be staying here for New Year's. Can't go back? The three of them were even more curious. Akali immediately asked, Sir Chairman, what do you mean you can't go back? Is it because your hometown has been destroyed? Or is it because you were chased out by someone? Akali. Evita gave a rare sharp shout, fiercely glaring at Akali. Akali immediately reacted and stuck out her tongue, saying in a small voice, Sir Chairman, I'm just curious. I don't have any other meaning. Don't misunderstand. He shook his head with a faint smile. It's nothing. But don't ask me where my hometown is in the future. I'm not willing to talk about this topic. Akali immediately nodded. Although he still had a smile on his face, Evita could clearly see the deep melancholy hidden under Su Yi's smile. Seeing the sadness in Su Yi's eyes, Evita couldn't help feeling pain in her heart. This Sir Chairman, who always seemed confident, like he wouldn't be defeated by anything, actually had such a weak side. In an instant, Evita had the urge to hug Su Yi and comfort him. Evita was just being impulsive, but Steel took action. Under Evita and Akali's shocked gazes, Steel walked forward and opened her arms to hug Su Yi, saying softly, If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. We won't ask in the future. Su Yi was startled by Steel's sudden hug. Smelling the fragrance coming from Steel's body, his body froze before relaxing and smiling. It's not that serious. You don't have to worry about it. Steel immediately let go after hugging him. Based on her stiff movements and the red blush on her face, she was actually a bit nervous in her heart. The room fell into a strange silence. After a while, Steel adjusted her expression and asked, Since you're staying here for the new year, that's even better. If you don't have anywhere else to go, why don't you come to my house for the new year? During the new year, my father and mother will also come back. Adding grandfather and me, the house will be very lively. If you also come, it'll be even more lively. Grandfather has always liked you and has always wanted to invite you to my house as a guest. Moreover, I believe that my father and mother will also like you after seeing you. Do you want to come? Seeing Steel's expectant eyes, He thought about it before shaking his head. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. Although I'll be staying for the new year, I still have work to do. This is because I promised Agnes that I'll go to her place this year. This trip will take a while, and the holidays might be over by the time I come back. Agnes. Steel revealed a look of disappointment, but before she could say anything, Akali spoke first. Sir Chairman, this Agnes. From her name, she should be a girl, right? And she's a girl, what about it? He nodded and asked back, What about it? You're still asking what about it? Akali raised her voice with an angry look on her face. Steel has already invited you to her house for the new year and wants to introduce you to her father and mother. But in the end, you're going to another girl's place to reject her. Sir Chairman, you're too fickle in love. He was a bit confused. Fickle in love? How am I fickle in love? All right, Sir Chairman, I really misjudged you. I thought you were a good man, and I quite liked you before. I never thought you were this kind of person. Akali didn't say anything else, but Evita and Steel both covered her mouth. Seeing Akali's angry expression and Steel's red face, no matter how slow Yi was, he still understood. He laughed and said, Akali, you're mistaken. I'm going to Agnes' place because of work, and Steel is also clear on this matter. Isn't that right, Steel? Steel nodded and gave an unsound, but there was still a trace of disappointment on her face. Akali stopped struggling and looked at Steel with a puzzled look, as if she didn't understand why she had this kind of reaction. He shook his head. He thought that these little girls were really sensitive and hard to deal with. Thinking about it, he said to Steel, If the work goes smoothly and I come back early, I'll go visit your family. At the very least, I have to send my New Year greetings to your grandfather, right? Of course, it'd be even better if I could see your parents. I'm very curious. What kind of parents would give birth to such an outstanding and beautiful girl like you? Steel's face turned even redder. Evita and Akali looked at Yi in surprise. They were very surprised that he would say something like this. Akali pushed away their hands, covering her mouth, and couldn't help saying, Sir Chairman, I thought you were a block of wood and didn't know how to compliment girls. Sue-yi laughed. This isn't a compliment, but rather the truth. Look, I'm also very curious what kind of parents would give birth to such a lively and curious girl like you, Akali. This isn't a compliment. Akali glared at Sue-yi in annoyance. Sue-yi laughed and clapped his hands. All right, you guys shouldn't talk nonsense with me. There isn't much time, so you should quickly pack up and leave. That's right. Send my greetings to your parents for the new year. Tell them to thank their good daughter for her contributions to our new flyer. Evita and Akali replied, before turning to help Akali pack her luggage. Steele saw that Sue-yi was about to leave and suddenly shouted, Sue-yi, I also want to go. Sue-yi turned his head in surprise. Where do you want to go? To Agnes' place. Evita and Akali couldn't help stopping what they were doing as they looked at Steele in surprise. Sue-yi looked at Steele's serious expression and couldn't help tapping his head. These little girls, what were they thinking? Chapter 133. 2 days later, a horse carriage left the main road to the west of Banta City and headed into the mountains to the side. A slender arm lifted the curtain of the carriage, and Vivian's little face poked out of the window. After taking a look at the scenery outside, she could not help but exclaim, So the dwarves live in such deep mountains. No wonder it was so difficult to see them before. That was before. It's too easy to see them now. Steele's voice came from inside the carriage. Vivian, when the company starts working again, if you want to see the dwarves, you just need to go to the magic machine workshop and you'll see several hundred dwarves at any time. Yes. Vivian nodded vigorously. Vivian gave a strong nod. The people of Banta City aren't that curious about the dwarves now, right? But they should still be curious about the elves. Don't you think so, young Miss Agnes? Steele's final words were turned to Agnes on the other side of the carriage. Agnes seriously thought about it before saying with a nod, It should be. We elves don't like interacting with humans more than the dwarves and haven't appeared in front of humans in several hundred years, so it's normal for them to be curious about us. But now that your tribe is about to be exposed to humans, young Miss Agnes, aren't you nervous? Steele asked. Agnes' voice had a trace of helplessness. There's no other way. Our tribe is facing difficulties, and to solve these problems, it seems like only you humans have a way. In order to survive, even if we're exposed to humans again, there's no other way. Then again, I feel that Chairman Sue is right. Not every human is a bad person. Other than good people like Chairman Sue who are willing to help us solve our problems, there are also people like Vivian who are as pure as us elves. Other than that, young Miss Steele is an elegant and beautiful person that I like very much. Steele's face turned a bit red. Many thanks for your praise. But I feel that your luck is good. The first human you met was Sue-yi. Although that fellow is an unscrupulous merchant, his character isn't bad. Since he agreed to help you, he will definitely do it. Agnes nodded, yes. After interacting with Chairman Sue many times and observing him during this period of time, I feel that he should be a trustworthy human. Steele's eyes turned, and she suddenly asked, That's right. Agnes, you said that you've always been by Sue-yi's side. Then is it always like this? Do you even follow Sue-yi when he's sleeping, bathing, and going to the toilet? Agnes had a natural expression as she nodded again. Yes. Steele's eyes widened in surprise. You were there when he was taking a shower? Then didn't you see him naked? Agnes didn't seem to understand Steele's meaning at all as she said in a confused voice, I saw it all. Is there something wrong with that? Suddenly, Sue-yi's violent coughs, as well as his embarrassed and angry voice, could be heard from the front of the carriage. Coo, coo, coo. I say, Agnes, why didn't you tell me that you were beside me when I was bathing? Agnes opened the curtain of the carriage and asked Sue-yi who was driving the carriage, because I didn't feel that there was a problem. Why do you and young Miss Steele care so much about this problem? Sue-yi slowed down the carriage and turned to look at Agnes. Seeing her innocent expression, he could only helplessly sigh. Then he looked at Steele with a strange expression and angrily said, You're still laughing? I was unknowingly seen by her. It's me who suffered a loss, all right? Steele gave a soft snort. You are a man. What is there to suffer a loss for? Agnes is such a beautiful elven girl. If anyone suffers a loss, it's her who suffers a loss. He shook his head and decided not to argue with Steele about this problem. But after seeing Steele and Agnes talk, their relationship became much better, so it wasn't good to be at ease. Originally, he was prepared to come alone with Agnes, but when he set off, he found that because Evita and Akali had already returned home, Vivian had no one to entrust her to, so he could only bring her along. And for some reason, Steele insisted on coming along. Suyi's persuasion had no effect, so he could only agree in the end. So for a trip that Suyi thought was very simple, there were 2 extra girls that came along. But there was an advantage to this. The road was much more lively, and it wasn't as boring. Because Suyi had paid for the road to the dwarf tribe, the last 20 kilometers of the trip wasn't purely on foot like the first time. They drove the carriage, and after less than an hour, they could already see thick smoke in the sky. Could it be that there's a fire over there? Seeing the thick smoke, Steele couldn't help asking in surprise. No, that should be the smoke from the steel mill and the lime factory. He looked at the smoke in the distance and slightly knit his brows. Although the scene made him think of the factories on Earth and made him feel a sense of familiarity, seeing this scene, he couldn't help but think of the serious problem of environmental pollution. The place where the Norma tribe and the Angola tribe were at was considered beautiful and had a pleasant environment, but since Suyi invested in the steel mill and lime factory, the dust from the 2 factories quickly eroded the environment. Although Chief Saluka and Chief Monto didn't care and were happy that the 2 factories gave their tribe a stable income, Suyi was very clear on the serious consequences of environmental pollution, so he was naturally worried. However, the process of industrialization on Earth was accompanied by severe pollution, and no country could avoid it. Therefore, if the Signs wanted to develop their industry according to Suyi's ideas, this was a path they had to go through. But after thinking about it, Suyi thought of a problem. He was developing the magic industry on this continent. Compared to the industries on Earth, the magic industry had a great advantage, and that was its energy consumption mainly came from magic, so it didn't cause pollution. Since Suyi's magic industry didn't have any pollution problems, then the steel mill and lime factory should also be able to avoid this problem. Suyi pondered on how to improve the production process of the 2 factories as the carriage continued forward. It didn't take long for them to enter the Norma tribe. Kambai and the other dwarves had returned to the tribe during the factory holidays, and they already knew that Suyi was coming today. Now that they saw the carriage, the dwarves of the tribe came forward to welcome them, with Chief Saluka leading them. Seeing that Suyi was the one driving the carriage, and after the carriage came to a stop, 3 different beauties of different sizes jumped out. The dwarves couldn't help but feel astonished. Chairman Su, welcome, welcome. Chief Saluka's gaze swept over the 3 beauties, pausing on Agnes for a while before he laughed heartily and extended his hand to Suyi shook his hand and exchanged a few pleasantries, before having Chief Saluka bring him to the steel mill to take a look. This steel mill was built by Chief Saluka before Suyi went to Anvilmar City because the dwarves had made a breakthrough in their material research. Because of the silver leaf grass powder, Suyi named it the silver leaf steel. After the dwarves worked hard to research it, they had already grasped the properties of this steel. Now the dwarves could refine 3 different kinds of silver leaf steel with different properties. So Suyi directly invested a large amount of money and built this steel mill in the Norma tribe, letting the dwarves focus on refining the silver leaf steel. According to Suyi's judgment, the silver leaf steel had a wide range of uses. Just based on the current situation, it could replace the normal iron that New Flyer used to make the magic fans, magic air conditioners, magic rice cookers, and magic lamps. If it was changed to this kind of steel that had outstanding hardness and ductility, as well as the properties of stainless steel, these household magic machines would have a heaven-shaking change. As for the large and heavy magic machines made by the magic machines, because there was a high requirement for the hardness of the steel, the silver leaf steel wasn't suitable. Based on this, Suyi had high hopes for the other kind of steel that he had discovered before, but because the dwarves hadn't grasped it yet, he couldn't count on it for now. As for this steel mill that was used to refine the silver leaf steel, it could be considered very small. It had been in production for close to 2 months, and it had refined less than 10,000 tons of silver leaf steel. According to the standards of Earth, this couldn't even compare to the output of the smallest steel mill. But Sui was already very satisfied with this. After all, the steel-making industry in Signs had just started, and the output of this small steel mill kept increasing. In the first month, they had refined less than 3,000 tons, and in the second month, they had refined over 5,000 tons. According to this speed, as long as the dwarves continued to practice and improve the refining process, as well as gradually increasing the scale, even if this steel mill didn't catch up to the standards of Earth, it would at least be enough to meet the needs of New Flyer. Steel, Vivian, and even the elf Agnes, who were seeing the steel mill for the first time, had shocked looks on their faces. The scene in front of them had completely surpassed their understanding. To Steel and Vivian, the so-called iron refining was just the process of the blacksmiths in Banna City throwing iron ores into the furnace to slowly refine them. But what was happening in front of them now was a completely different situation. Pile after pile of iron ores were thrown into the giant furnace, and the molten iron came out from the other side like magma. Finally, it flowed into the mold and gradually cooled into pieces of silver, white, glowing steel. Whether it was the scale or the efficiency, as well as the shock it gave people, it far surpassed the blacksmiths by countless times. Steel looked at the silver leaf steel that had already been formed and asked Sui, "You said last time that the magic fans would be made with a new material next year. Was this what you were referring to?" Sui nodded with a faint smile. "When the magic fans are sold next summer, everyone will be shocked." Agnes on the side heard the conversation between the two and looked at the heated steel making process in front of her. Her confidence in Sui deepened a bit. Since this human could create such a shocking scene, then it should be easy for him to solve the problem of his tribe, right? Chapter 134. Compared to the steel factory, the cement factory was not as shocking. Instead, because of the dust flying around, it was very messy. Steel couldn't help knitting her brows since it was her first time here. Vivian didn't dislike this environment at all. When she was a slave under Viscount Leslie, her living environment wasn't much better than this. Sui thought that Agnes, who couldn't accept this kind of environment, would reject it the most. But he never thought that Agnes would just silently watch and not express any opinions. "Agnes, don't you feel that the environment here is very bad?" Sui couldn't help asking. Agnes shook her head. "I feel that it's very bad. But us elves have a strong ability to adapt to the environment, so the environment here doesn't affect me at all. I thought that you elves had high requirements for the environment like the rumors said." Sui muttered. "Yes, us elves are a race that pursues perfection. Although we can adapt to various environments, we have high requirements for where we live. If you go to our tribe, you'll find that the place we live in is very beautiful." "I believe that." Sui immediately nodded. Thinking about it, he pointed at the dirty cement factory in front of him and asked, "Then do you think there's a way to improve the environment here?" "It's fine as long as we don't let the dwarves turn the stones to dust," Agnes naturally replied. Sui couldn't help being depressed before saying with a bitter smile, "I'm asking if there's a way to improve the environment while maintaining the cement factory's operation. Is there a way?" Agnes slightly knit her brows. After thinking for a bit, she gave a slight nod. "There should be a way. Our tribe has a kind of still closed grass that can absorb the dust in the air and keep the environment clean. But there is too much dust here, so I don't know if it'll work." "It's good to try." Sui obtained a satisfactory answer and immediately revealed a smile. "When we reach your tribe, I will ask your elders to help transplant some still closed grass." Seeing Agnes agree, Sui turned to look at Chief Saluka on the side and said, "Chief Saluka, I suggested last time that you move the clansman's living area a bit further away to avoid being affected by the dust. Why is it that when I came this time, I found that you didn't do anything?" Chief Saluka laughed heartily as he patted his sturdy chest and said, "Chairman Sui, you underestimate us dwarves too much. It's just some ash. Our dwarf race is so strong that we don't care about it all. You should know that a long time ago, we dwarves lived in underground caves. At that time, we dwarves still loved forging. Soot floated in the cave every day, but nothing happened. Su furrowed his brows. Chief Saluka, even if you dwarves have strong bodies, this dust is still very harmful to your bodies. If there's a good choice to let you stay away from this pollution, why aren't you willing to do it? Seeing Su Yi's serious expression, Chief Saluka rubbed his head and said with some embarrassment, moving all the clansmen away would cost quite a bit of money. Su Yi's face immediately sank. Chief Saluka, I thought you were a good chief that the clansmen truly loved. I didn't think that for a trifling amount of money, you would let your clansmen face the danger of being harmed. You've really disappointed me. Chief Saluka remained silent, but Camby on the side couldn't watch any longer. He quickly said, Chairman, you've misunderstood the chief. How have I misunderstood him? Su, he was already a bit depressed because of the shocking pollution here. Now that he heard Chief Saluka's answer, it directly evoked a trace of anger in his heart. Hearing Camby still wanting to defend him, he immediately retorted with a question without any trace of politeness. Camby, you and your brothers in the workshop live in the factory every day and aren't affected by this place. Of course, you don't know the harm your clansmen will suffer from living in this environment. Don't you know that if this continues, the lifespan of you dwarves might be affected? Camby had worked under Su Yi for a long time and had gradually developed a sense of reverence towards Su Yi. After being reprimanded, he didn't dare to retort. But after thinking about it, he still tried his best to defend Chief Saluka. Chairman, you have to be considerate of the chief. Although our tribe's days have become better because of you, we're still short of money. The chief is thinking for his clansmen and isn't willing to use up the money they use to buy food. Su Yi was startled. The money you're earning now isn't enough to buy food? Chief Saluka shook his head with a wry smile. It's enough to buy food, but I want to keep some money for my clansmen to rebuild their houses after winter passes. So, Chairman Su, you're right. If our clansmen's health deteriorates, then there's no point in keeping the money. I'll immediately mobilize my clansmen to move. Su Yi muttered to himself for a moment, and then suddenly asked, Chief Saluka, according to your estimation, how much money would it cost to move all our clansmen to a better place? Actually, if it's just moving, it wouldn't cost a single copper coin. The houses we dwarves live in were built with our own hands, so we just need to spend some time on it. But a trace of embarrassment flitted across Chief Saluka's face. I want to take advantage of the fact that our clan is richer than before to build better houses for our clansmen. That's why we need to buy some materials from the humans. The best-case scenario is that we can ask you humans to help us build our houses, because you humans are much better at building houses than us, and they're also more beautiful. I've calculated that if we build a nice house for each clan, we'll need to spend over 2,000 gold coins. Su Yi nodded and said with a straight face, All right then. Chief Saluka, I'll represent New Flyer and express my sincerity. I'll sponsor your clan with 3,000 gold coins in the name of the conglomerate, specifically for building new houses for you. Chief Saluka and Camby were both shocked and hurriedly waved their hands. How could that be? No, Chairman Su, our tribe being able to have such good days is all because of you and the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. We've already received so much help from you. How could we still need you to give us money? No, I can't take this money. Su Yi firmly said, You have to take it even if you don't want to. But Chief Saluka, I've thought about it, and directly giving you money isn't good. Because you are dwarves, if you find a human construction company to build a house for you, you'll be cheated of quite a bit of gold coins. How about this? I have a good relationship with the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce in Banda City, so I'll contact the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to build a house for you. As for the style and location of the house, it'll be up to you to decide. What do you think of this plan? Chief Saluka and Camby's eyes lit up. This method isn't bad, but Chairman Su, this will be too troublesome for you. Moreover, wouldn't this cost a lot of money? I'm afraid that 2,000 gold coins isn't enough. Su, he waved his hand. You don't need to worry about the matter of money. Thinking of having the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce build a house, I've suddenly had a new idea. Chairman Saluka, do you know how many dwarven brothers there are in our Lampari kingdom? Chief Saluka thought about it before replying in an uncertain voice, around 20 to 30,000? I'm not certain. Then how many dwarven brothers can you contact? Sui asked. There are less than 20 tribes that are in contact with our tribe, so there are less than 5,000 of them. Chief Saluka replied. Very good. My new idea is that since we're building new houses, we might as well build a bit more at once. I'm planning to choose an open area not far from here and build a house that can accommodate several thousand dwarves at once. Other than your Norma tribe's dwarves moving in, I'll invite the other tribes to move in as well. For example, Chief Monto of the Angola tribe should agree with my idea. Hearing Su Yi's idea, not only were Chief Saluka, Kanbai, and the other dwarves shocked, even Steele looked at Su Yi in astonishment. Hey, Su Yi, what are you thinking of doing? Gathering so many dwarves together, aren't you afraid of arousing the suspicion of the kingdom's officials? Su Yi was startled. That's a problem. Chief Saluka hurriedly said, Miss Steele is right. If we dwarves gather too many together, I'm afraid your human king will misunderstand. Chairman Su, we appreciate your kindness in helping us build a house, but let's forget about the rest. No, I think this is a good idea. His Majesty might not object or be vigilant. Su Yi thought for a bit and continued. How about this? Let's follow our original plan. Chief Saluka, you choose a place nearby, and I'll go find the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to help you build a new tribe. But Chief Saluka, when you choose a location, it's best if you choose a place where you can build more houses nearby. If my idea can gain His Majesty's approval, there'll be room for implementation. Seeing Su Yi's insistence, Chief Saluka could only nod in agreement. But out of caution, Chief Saluka couldn't help but remind Su Yi. Chairman Su, although the war between races has been over for several thousand years, you humans are still wary of us outsiders. It's no problem for you to hire some of our dwarven brothers, but if you want to gather so many dwarves together like this, it'll easily arouse the suspicion of your human king. I'm worried that this will bring trouble to you and New Flyer. You'd better be careful. Steele also frowned and said worriedly, That's right, Chief Saluka is right. Although I don't have any prejudice against dwarves or other races, it's hard to guarantee that others will. What if some people are already hostile to you, and you're close to the dwarves? They might be able to use this against you. I understand your worries. Su Yi smiled faintly. But I have to say, that's because they still haven't recognized the value of other races. If they do one day, I'm afraid I won't even need to do anything. They'll actively seek change. When that time comes, I'll become a prophet. Steele rolled her eyes at him. I'm afraid you'll become a martyr before you become a prophet. Chapter 135. Su Yi and Steele's group of 3 only rested for a night at the Norma tribe before heading to the Angola tribe the next morning. They discussed a few things with Chief Monto and discussed the matter of building a new tribe before following Agnes to the falling rainforest. There was no wide path leading to the falling rainforest, so the 4 of them could only give up on the carriage and follow Agnes through the forest on foot. It was a good thing that the falling rainforest was less than 20 kilometers away, so Vivian, who had the weakest stamina out of the 4 of them, was still able to hold on. When the night of the second day arrived, the 4 of them finally entered the falling rainforest. The sky outside the falling rainforest was still bright, but once they entered the falling rainforest, the light above them was completely blocked by the thick branches and leaves that hadn't withered in the winter, so there was almost no light that could pass through. However, the falling rainforest wasn't completely dark. As far as the eye could see, there were specks of green, purple, and blue lights everywhere. The entire forest was shrouded in a strange color, adding a bit of mystery to it. Agnes was naturally used to this scene, but Su Yi, Steele, and Vivian, who came here for the first time, couldn't help being shocked. Especially Steele and Vivian, the 2 girls. They were filled with curiosity and excitement towards this mysterious environment. Steele even grabbed Su Yi's arm and happily shouted, Su Yi, how good would it be if we could live here every day? This place is too beautiful. Su Yi expressionlessly pointed at her feet. Watch it, don't step on that snake. Steele was scared. She looked down in the direction Su Yi was pointing and saw a large green snake slithering in front of them. This large snake didn't seem to be afraid of people and didn't want to pay attention to them. It just slithered past the four of them and disappeared into the darkness on the other side. This is a green leaf snake. It won't bite people. Agnes pointed at where the large snake disappeared and explained. She waved her hand at the three of them. Follow behind me. Otherwise, it's easy to get lost. The three hurriedly nodded and followed closely behind Steele, diving into the depths of falling rainforest. Before entering the falling rainforest, Sue-E didn't understand why many people knew that the elves lived in the forest, but almost no one could see the elves. After entering the falling rainforest, it didn't take long for Sue-E to understand. The falling rainforest wasn't a particularly large forest, but once one entered the forest, the surrounding environment would easily make one lose their sense of direction. Moreover, there were all kinds of plants in the forest, making it difficult for people to pass through. If it wasn't for Agnes leading the way, with just the three of them walking in, they would have completely lost their way and wouldn't know where they were at all. If they wanted to find the hidden elves in this kind of complicated environment, it would be an impossible matter. Not to mention that Agnes was normally very agile and strong, but once she entered the falling rainforest, it was like her body had lost its weight. She easily jumped between the trees, as if she didn't need to use any strength at all. At first, the three of them could barely keep up, but in less than half an hour, Sue-E already couldn't keep up. The reason why he couldn't keep up with a little girl like Vivian was because Sue-E was carrying a large wooden box on his back. Inside was an important tool for this trip to the elven tribe. The wooden box weighed several dozen pounds, and even if Sue-E was young and strong, he couldn't carry it for too long. When Agnes saw this situation, she directly took the wooden box from Sue-E's back and easily carried it on her back. She used her other hand to support Vivian, who was also gasping for breath, walking forward without any effort. Steele looked at Sue-E with a look of disdain, and Sue-E gave a helpless, bitter laugh. Then the two of them looked at each other and laughed at the same time before following her. After walking for around 2 hours and resting twice, Agnes suddenly had the three of them stop. She put down the wooden box on her back and let go of Vivian before saying to Sue-E, "Wait a minute." She jumped up after saying this and jumped onto a large tree beside her. After jumping 2 more times, she disappeared into the forest. Steele was surprised and couldn't help saying in a worried voice, "Sue-E, she wouldn't have left us here, right?" Sue-E sat down and patted the ground beside him. "Relax. Agnes still hopes that we can help her tribe solve their problem. Come, let's rest first." Steele looked in the direction Agnes disappeared in and thought about it. She found that there was no point in being anxious, so she also sat down beside Sue-E. The three of them sat down and rested for around 10 minutes. When they were about to catch their breath, there was a rustling sound from the trees above them as several figures jumped down. Sue-E looked over and found that the first one to jump down was Agnes. There were men and women who jumped down with Agnes, all of them having long ears. It seemed like they were Agnes elves. "Agnes, did your clansmen come to pick me up?" Sue-E stood up and greeted Agnes. Who would have thought that a male elf behind Agnes would suddenly take a step forward and block in front of Agnes? He raised his hands and pointed the bow in his hands at Sue-E. "Human, put down your hands." Seeing the vigilant look on the male elf's face, Sue-E knit his brows and said to Agnes, "What? Agnes, you didn't tell them what we came here for?" "I did, only—" Agnes' expression was a bit awkward. After pausing for a bit, she looked at Sue-E with a pleading look. "Chairman Sue, can you do as they say? Please be assured they won't hurt you." Sue-E gave a soft snort and put down his hands. Compared to their attitude towards Sue-E, the elves' attitude towards Steele and Vivian was much better. Not only did they not point their bows at them like this male elf, the female elves beside them were curiously looking over the two of them, not revealing any hostility. It seemed like not only did humans rarely see elves, these elves also rarely saw humans. They were also filled with curiosity towards humans. Seeing Sue-E put down his hands, the hostility on the male elf's face disappeared, but he didn't let down his guard at all. He made a hand signal to the other elves, and they took out a thick cloth. "Chairman Sue, young Miss Steele, young Miss Vivian, please cover your eyes. Agnes said in an embarrassed voice, "This is the elder's request. Please understand." Sui gave a shrug and didn't say anything as he pointed at his eyes. The cloth was very thick, and once it was tied up, Suyi's eyes fell into darkness, and he couldn't see anything. At this time, a soft and slender hand reached out and grabbed Suyi's right hand. Then Agnes' voice softly sounded in Suyi's ears, "Chairman Su, come with me." Su-yi was led by Agnes, and after walking around the forest for a while, he suddenly felt like his body had been brushed by something. Then he found that Agnes beside him had stopped. "Chairman Su, we're here." Agnes reached out to take off the cloth covering Su-yi's eyes, and a warm and bright light green light entered his eyes. Su-yi blinked and opened his eyes to look around, finding that they had arrived in an open space. The vegetation in the falling rainforest was very dense, and Su-yi's group hadn't found an open space after walking for a while. Now there was an open space of close to 500 square meters, which made Su-yi feel very surprised. Looking around, Su-yi found that there were several giant trees with a diameter of over 20 meters around this open space. Looking at the giant trees, he could see beautiful wooden houses built on the thick branches of the giant trees. Although these wooden houses were built on the branches, they didn't seem out of place at all. It was like they had already merged with the giant trees and had a very beautiful appearance. It fully displayed the elves' love for beauty. Looking up, he found that the leaves on the top of these giant trees completely covered the sky, not revealing any gaps at all. However, there were faint green spots of light shooting out from the top of the trees and their trunks, illuminating the entire space clearly. Turning around, he saw that Steele and Vivian had already taken off the cloth covering their eyes and were curiously looking around. Su-yi relaxed, and when he was about to ask Agnes, a shadow suddenly fell down from above. Looking up, he saw an elven female slowly falling down from the sky. Su-yi's heart skipped a beat. This female elf could actually fall down this easily, which meant that her attainments in wind magic had already reached the level of a great magician. He never thought that in this small elven tribe, there would be a great magician hidden. But thinking about it, it wasn't strange. The elemental magic that humans grasped was learned from the elves, and compared to the short lifespans of humans, the elves had a lot of time to learn magic. It could be said that every elder elf was a powerful magician, although the female elf in front of him didn't look much older than Agnes. As long as the elves reached adulthood, their appearance wouldn't change that much. So how old she really was, Su-yi couldn't estimate it. "Human, you are Su-yi?" The female elf looked over Su-yi and asked this, even if one ignored her extremely beautiful and mysterious appearance. Just hearing this gentle and pleasant voice would make people involuntarily have a good impression of her. Su-yi nodded with a faint smile. "That's right. I am Su-yi. You should be the elder Lucia that Agnes often mentions, right?" The female elf looked at Agnes on the side, and her lips curled into a faint smile. "Does Agnes often mention me to you?" Agnes' expression was a bit awkward, but she lowered her head and didn't dare say anything. "That's right. Whenever Agnes mentions you, she would always show great respect for you. Before I came here, I was already very curious about you." Su-yi said. Elder Alicia revealed a faint smile. "Human, meaningless compliments have no meaning to me. Since I agreed to let Agnes bring you here, that means I'm willing to accept your help. But I'm more clear than Agnes that humans don't do meaningless things. You being willing to help us must mean you want to obtain some benefits from us. But human, you have already seen the situation here. Do you think we have any benefits worth you paying for us?" Su-yi said with a smile. "Of course there is. From what I can see, there are countless things here that can move my heart. For example, Elder Lucia is one of them." When these words were said, the expressions of the surrounding elves all changed. Chapter 136. The male elf holding Su-yi pointed his bow at Su-yi and coldly shouted, "Human, immediately apologize for your disrespect. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." The surrounding elves all had unhappy expressions as they coldly stared at Su-yi. Agnes was surprised. She quickly moved to Su Yi's side and said in a low voice, "Chairman Su Yi, how can you say this to the elder?" Su Yi smiled at her. "Relax, the elder won't be angry because I'm speaking the truth." Everyone turned to look at Elder Elugia, but they didn't see any displeasure on her face. Rather, she seemed very happy because of Su Yi's words as she said with a faint smile, "Human, I just said that meaningless compliments have no meaning to me. Although I don't look older than you, I'm actually over 300 years old enough to be your great-grandmother. Do you think there's any meaning in praising me?" Su Yi shook his head. "No, I think the elder has misunderstood. Although your beauty and temperament have indeed moved my heart, what I value the most is your wisdom and knowledge. If I can learn a few things from you, I feel that this time is worth it. Not to mention that the elves have a value that you haven't discovered yet. For example, her." Su Yi pointed at Agnes. The group of elves looked at Agnes in surprise. Agnes just pointed at herself in a daze, not knowing what to do. "I heard Agnes say that you wanted to use her as a reward for helping our tribe." When Elder Lucius said this, Su Yi, Steele, and Vivian suddenly felt the surrounding temperature drop by quite a bit. The surrounding elves all released killing intent. "Human, I want to give you a serious warning. You humans have captured many elves as slaves before, and we elves abhor this kind of thing. If you want to make this kind of request, I advise you to immediately leave this place. Even if our tribe disappears from this world, I definitely won't agree to this request of yours." Seeing the surrounding elves' eyes filled with hostility, Su Yi wanted to say something with a bitter smile, but Agnes quickly waved her hand and said, "Elder, you're mistaken. Chairman Su doesn't want me to be his slave. He just wants me to help him work." "Work?" Elder Alicia looked at Su Yi in surprise. "What kind of work can Agnes help you with? She's still a child." Su Yi said with a smile, "Respected Elder Alicia, like I just said, Agnes has a value that you haven't discovered. Let me give an example. In the half a month that Agnes has been by my side, she has helped me design a new product for our company. This new product has only been sold for half a month, but it has already earned over 100,000 gold coins for our company." 100,000 gold coins? Not only did the surrounding elves call out in surprise, even Elder Alicia couldn't help opening her eyes wide. She asked in surprise, "You're saying that Agnes has helped your company earn 100,000 gold coins?" "That isn't the case." Su Yi shook his head. "This new product contains the hard work of many people. It isn't just Agnes' work alone. But from what I can see, Agnes has played the biggest role. If we split this 100,000 gold coins, Agnes' value is at least 20,000 gold coins." Hearing Su Yi give her such a high evaluation, Agnes couldn't help revealing a look of joy. She looked at Su Yi with a smile. 20,000 gold coins. Elder Alicia gave a gentle nod. "Human, although I don't like you using gold coins to measure value, I admit that this description is easy to understand. But even if Agnes has a strong value, I won't agree to give her to you. You humans are very unfriendly to us elves. I don't think Agnes can safely live in your human world." Seeing Elder Alicia's serious expression, Su Yi could only sigh in his heart. The gap between the elves and humans was too deep, and their prejudice towards humans was too deep. Wanting to change these stubborn elves' impression of humans in a short period of time was impossible. Thinking about it, Su Yi gave up on this topic and revealed a smile. He pointed at the box being carried over by another male elf and said, "All right, Elder Alicia, before we finish our work, discussing rewards is a very boring matter. Let's first see how we can help you." Elder Alicia nodded with a faint smile. "It seems like you're a human who doesn't like empty words. I like it very much. Come with me." Elder Alicia led the way in front, and the group entered the gap between two large trees. After taking a few steps, they saw a large hole appear in the small open space in front of them. "We tried to use underground water, but when we dug 10 meters deep, we encountered a very thick layer of rock. The rock was too hard, and even with my abilities, I couldn't move it, so we could only give up in the end." Elder Alicia pointed at the large hole and said. Su Yi looked down from the hole and found that even with the light above him, he couldn't see what the bottom of the hole looked like. "Elder Alicia, do you have a long enough rope? I want to go down and take a look at the situation," Su Yi said. Steele on the side suddenly pulled on Su Yi's sleeve and softly shook her head at him. Seeing her worried expression, Su Yi said with a smile, "Relax, with so many noble elves beside me, nothing will happen to me." Elder Alicia revealed a faint smile. "Human, you don't need to use words to force us. We elves have our own principles." After saying this, she said something to a male elf, and that male elf quickly left. After a while, he came back with a long vine. He took one end of the vine and forcefully pulled it. He found that this vine was incomparably tough. It was even tougher than a nylon rope of the same thickness. Tying the other end to his waist, He prepared to dive into the hole to see what was going on. Seeing that He was about to climb down, Agnes suddenly charged out. "Elder, let me go down with him? If something happens, I can save him." Elder Alicia looked at Agnes with a surprised expression. After thinking about it, she nodded and said, "That's fine. We can't let the human guest take risks alone." Steele had a strange expression as she watched Agnes tie herself and Su-Yi together. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out in the end. Vivian on the side said in a somewhat annoyed voice, "It would be great if I could be as agile as big Sister Agnes." Steele looked at her and thought to herself, "How could I not think the same?" But the elves' agility was not only because of their natural talent, but also because they had lived in the forest since they were young, so they trained bit by bit. How could a normal human compare to them? The two of them could only watch as Su-Yi and Agnes were almost face to face as they were pulled into the hole. Hearing that Agnes wanted to go down with him, Su-Yi didn't have any special thoughts at first, but as they went deeper and deeper, the surroundings became darker and darker, and he could feel the changes around him more and more. Feeling Agnes' body close to him, and even feeling the breath coming out of Agnes' nostrils, even if Su-Yi was a wooden person, his heart couldn't help beating faster. And in this dark environment, even the sound of his heartbeat could be clearly heard. "Chairman Su, are you afraid?" Agnes suddenly asked. It would have been better if she didn't speak, but once she did, a breath came out of her mouth. Of course it wasn't bad breath. Rather, this breath had a special fragrance of grass and wood that shook Su-Yi's mind when he smelled it. Only like this, Su-Yi felt even more awkward. Not only did his heart beat faster, even a certain part of his body couldn't help reacting. It was a good thing that this hole was only a few dozen meters deep. Su-Yi quickly felt his feet touch the ground, and his heart calmed down. Agnes reached out a finger, and a green glow came from her finger, illuminating the bottom of the hole. The hole the elves dug was quite spacious. The bottom was close to 10 square meters, so there was still a lot of space for the two of them to move around. With the light from Agnes' hand, Su-Yi carefully looked around. Then he squatted down and used his hand to dig up the dirt on the ground, revealing the hidden rock layer below. Su-Yi first touched it with his hand. From the feel of it, the rock layer was not dense and was rather loose, so he couldn't help nodding his head in satisfaction. This kind of rock layer, it didn't matter if it was a bit thick. He could definitely drill through it with the tools he brought. Actually, according to logic for a forest like the falling rainforest, there shouldn't be this kind of rock layer below a few dozen meters. Not to mention that the elves lived on such a large tree. Just the roots of these trees were enough to make normal rock layers unable to exist, so this kind of situation didn't conform to Su-Yi's common sense. But thinking that this wasn't Earth and common sense from Earth couldn't be applied, Su-Yi relaxed and didn't think about this problem. After investigating, Su-Yi forcefully pulled on the vines tied to him and had the elves above the hole pull him and Agnes back up. Looking at the expectant gazes of the elves and Elder Alicia, Su-Yi nodded. There shouldn't be a problem. The elves immediately breathed a sigh of relief, and even Elder Alicia's face showed a trace of joy. Su-Yi didn't care that much and opened the box he carried, revealing a machine that had a drill that was as thick as his arm. Su-Yi raised the machine in his hand with difficulty and said to Elder Alicia with a smile, "Honorable Elder, please allow me to introduce this to you. This is the magic machine that our new flyer specially developed to solve the problem your tribe encountered. It is called the Small Magic Drill." Chapter 137. Muffled yet regular loud noises kept coming from the bottom of the pit, shaking the entire elf tribe to the point that they were unable to calm down. If it was a normal time, the elves who liked a peaceful environment would already be very dissatisfied. However, at this time, the elves of the tribe didn't reveal a single bit of dissatisfaction. Rather, they all had looks of joy and expectation as they stared in the direction of the sound. According to what that human said, it wouldn't take long for the small magic drill he brought to drill through the rock formation, and everyone would have underground water to use. Chairman Sue, it seems like our elven race really will be separated from the continent. Elder Alicia looked at the deep hole that kept making sounds and suddenly shook her head with a sigh. You humans have already invented such a powerful tool, and we elves are still stuck in the past. If this continues, we'll be further and further away from you humans. Sue, he looked at the deep hole and asked back with a faint smile, Elder Alicia, please allow me to say something impolite. Could it be that you elves still want to take back the control of the continent from us humans? Although we know that it is impossible. Elder Alicia said, you humans are the race with the most creativity and learning ability. This was something that all the other races understood in the race wars thousands of years ago. Since the continent is already controlled by you humans, it is impossible for us other races to take it back from you. Of course, you humans are a race that likes to kill each other. If you humans seek your own destruction one day, it is possible for us other races to take back the continent. Sue revealed an awkward smile, thinking that Elder Alicia wasn't wrong at all. Killing each other was a bad habit of humans. It couldn't be changed. The humans on the signs were fine, but the humans on Earth had already invented weapons that were powerful enough to destroy the entire Earth. If a nuclear war really happened, humans really might seek their own destruction. Let's not discuss such a heavy topic. Sue said with a forced smile. Let's talk about the problem your tribe has encountered. Elder Alicia, the underground water problem can be solved, temporarily alleviating your tribe's water problem. But in the long run, if we don't solve the problem of the river, the underground water might dry up. So in the end, we have to solve the problem of changing the river. Of course, I understand this. Elder Alicia revealed a bitter smile. But with our tribe's abilities, we can't even solve the underground water problem. So how could we solve the problem of changing the river? Chairman Sue, actually I feel that even with your human abilities, it is impossible to solve this problem. If it really wasn't possible, I wouldn't have come. Sue revealed a faint smile. Elder Alicia, you said, we're the most creative race. Perhaps we couldn't solve this problem before, but I have confidence in solving it. Are you sure? Elder Alicia asked seriously. I'm sure. Sue replied in a very certain voice. Elder Alicia was silent. She turned to look at the deep hole for a while, and when she was about to speak, she suddenly felt the ground tremble. There was a large rumbling sound that came from the deep hole. Hong! A huge stream of water suddenly gushed out of the deep pit, reaching a height of more than 10 meters. In an instant, it was as if there was a heavy downpour around the deep pit, drenching the clothes of all the people around it. However, the elves were all stunned as they watched the water falling from the sky. After a while, they suddenly broke out in cheers as they happily danced in the water. Even Elder Alicia, who had always been calm, stood up. She didn't dodge the water droplets falling from the sky at all as an excited look that couldn't be suppressed appeared on her face. Only Sue saw that what came out of the water was the two male elves who had been sent to the bottom of the hole to control the small magic drill and the small magic drill in their hands. But these two male elves were very strong. After being sprayed out, they just twisted in the air and gently fell down, not being injured at all. Sue finally relaxed. He quickly moved to the side of Steel and Vivian, who were also stunned, pulling the two of them away. The elves were strong enough, so naturally they weren't afraid of being drenched in cold water in the middle of winter, but they couldn't take it. The elves' celebration lasted for over 2 hours before stopping. At this time, Suyi's group of 3 had already been invited by Elder Alicia to rest in the treehouse on the giant tree. Chairman Sue, I sincerely thank you for your helping my clansmen solve this urgent problem. Elder Alicia sincerely expressed her thanks to Su E. Of course, there is no meaning in just thanking. Now I ask you to give your request. Su E knit his brows to think before shaking his head and saying, Elder Alicia, actually solving this problem isn't that troublesome. I didn't put in that much work, so I'm not qualified to ask for too much. Moreover, to be honest, before I understand your tribe, I don't even know what request I should make. Right now, what I hope for the most is that you can agree to Agnes coming to my company to design the products. The value she can produce is enough to compensate me for helping you this time. Although I believe in Chairman Su's good intentions towards Agnes, I'm very sorry, but I don't believe that other humans will have the same kind intentions towards Agnes. If Agnes comes to work for your company, then she will definitely enter your human society. How can you guarantee that she won't be harmed by other humans? Elder Alicia asked. After saying this, he turned to Vivian and asked, Vivian, how do you feel? Are you tired? Vivian shook her head with a smile. I'm not tired. This place is quite fun. Look, there was an elf who gave me a present. Seeing the present Vivian took out, Su Yi's eyes lit up. He carefully looked it over and stroked it a few times before he couldn't help feeling excited. This light green, tiger-shaped toy was sparkling and had a smooth surface. It wouldn't change shape even if he squeezed it hard. No matter how he looked at it, it should be made of resin. Or, to put it more simply, this thing was actually made of plastic. Chapter 138. After confirming from Vivian that she had obtained it from an older female elf, Su E immediately had Vivian bring him to find that female elf. The answer he obtained from the female elf made Su E very happy. This was because the elves had a good relationship with plants, so they had a strong understanding of using the characteristics of plants. Using resin to make toys was just a form of entertainment for the elves, so it wasn't strange at all. This answer made Su E think of countless possibilities, so he went to find Elder Alicia again without any hesitation. Su E wanted Elder Alicia to teach him the method the elves used to smelt resin, but he was told that the method the elves used was a kind of magic unique to the elves and humans couldn't learn at all. After Su E tried it, he found that this magic only suited the elves and humans couldn't learn it at all, so he could only give up. After considering it, Su E decided to take a step back. He hoped that the Night Song tribe led by Elder Alicia could help the new flyer make the resin smelting magic machine. The outer shell of the magic machine wasn't hard to make, but the most important core, the magic array used to smelt resin, could only be made by the elves, so he could only find the elves to help him. Actually, to be honest, Su E had another choice, which was to follow the methods of Earth and add additives and coagulants to smelt the resin. But Su E wasn't familiar with the plastic process, so he didn't know how to make these additives and didn't know how to add them. Secondly, this method would create a strong environmental pollution, so Su E didn't like it. But with the magic of the elves, they didn't need to heat it up at high temperatures and didn't need that many complicated steps. They just needed to use simple magic, and the resin would naturally turn into a liquid, which meant that they could solidify it at will. The most important thing was that although the elves only knew how to make some simple products, to Su E, this meant that the elves could develop new magic and smelt the resin into different forms. So Su E hoped that the Night Song tribe could help the new flyer complete a series of research on the resin. It would be best if they could develop different magic and magic arrays based on his different requirements for the resin. Elder Alicia only thought about it before agreeing to Su Yi's request. The elves lived in the forest, and other than hunting for food each day, they were very bored. Helping Su E with his research could be considered giving her clansmen something to do, while also being a form of repayment to Su E. Elder Alicia, if it's just this, it still isn't enough. Hearing Elder Alicia say that this was a form of repayment, Su E immediately shook his head and laughed. As a human merchant, I don't have much interest in the word repayment. If I had to choose, I would prefer the word cooperation. Cooperation? Elder Alicia looked at Su E with a confused expression. How can we, the elf race, cooperate with you humans? Of course there is. The so-called cooperation is nothing more than both sides doing their best and taking what they need. Look, your Night Song tribe needs to borrow our power to improve the river and solve the drinking water problem. Correspondingly, I want to obtain something that I desire from all of you. From what I can see, other than the value in Agnes' body, the only other thing is the resin. Perhaps in your eyes, this resin is something that can be seen everywhere and doesn't have any value, but in my eyes, this resin has a very high value. But if I don't borrow the power of your elves, it will be very hard for me to display this value. That is why we need to cooperate. Su-yi paused before saying with a serious expression, Elder Alicia, I sincerely hope that we can maintain this cooperation for a long time. My goal is to obtain a win-win situation, which is whether it is me or your Night Song tribe, we can both obtain good returns from this cooperation. Long term? Elder Alicia looked at Su-yi with interest. Chairman Su, do you know what the long term means to us elves? The long term of us elves can be considered the life of you humans. Then we'll strive to maintain this cooperation until the day I die. What do you think? Su-yi said. The problem is that our tribe's current need is to solve the drinking water problem. Elder Alicia said with a faint smile. Not to mention that the underground well has already been opened, so this problem isn't that urgent to solve. Or to be more extreme, we can even leave the falling rainforest and find another place to live. Signs is this big, so we can easily find a new place to live. Then if we encounter a drinking water problem or some other problem, we'll have to move again. Su-yi asked back without any politeness. Although Signs is very big, respected elder, I'll be frank, the space for you elves to live in is becoming smaller and smaller. Could it be that you plan on continuing like this? Elder Alicia was silent as she calmly looked at Su-yi. Su-yi didn't show any weakness as he met her gaze, not avoiding it at all. After a while, Elder Alicia revealed a smile that was as dazzling as a flower blooming. Chairman Su, do you know why I agreed to let Agnes find you? Su-yi was stunned. Could it be that it wasn't because I gave you the method to solve your problem? That is only the surface reason. As for the deeper reason, it is because I saw a trace of possibility from the blueprint you gave Agnes. I hope to grasp this possibility and work hard to turn this possibility into reality. What possibility? Su-yi curiously asked. The possibility of us elves living in peace with you humans. Elder Alicia said. It's like you said, the space for us elves to live on the continent is becoming smaller and smaller. In these several hundred years, the elven tribes that I know of have disappeared one by one. Compared to when I was young, there are less than half of the elves left. I'm afraid that in a few hundred years, all the elves on the continent will disappear and the elves will no longer exist. As the elder of the Night Song tribe, I can't change the fate of the entire elven race, but I want to try and change the fate of my tribe. Since the continent is already controlled by you humans, then it is time for us to clearly recognize this reality and let go of the thousands of years of restraint. We will try to cooperate with you humans and try to live together. The race war has already been over for several thousand years, and the hatred between elves and humans has already faded to the point where it has almost disappeared. Now is a good chance, and also the last chance for us elves, so I want to grasp it and have Agnes contact you. So you didn't oppose Agnes working for our company? Su-yi asked. Yes. I want Agnes to be the first step for our tribe. If she can live normally among you humans, then it means that there is hope for us elves to live the same way. Elder Alicia had a bitter smile on her face as she said with a sigh, I don't know if this choice is correct or not, but perhaps this is our last chance. Us elves don't like to change, but if we don't make any changes, then only the fate of extinction awaits us. Su-yi looked at Elder Alicia in a daze. From her face that looked like a young girl in her early 20s, he could see endless vicissitudes and exhaustion. It seemed like the problem of the elves' survival had troubled her for a long time. Even this graceful elven elder couldn't bear the burden. Elder Alicia, if you're thinking like this, then I think I should change my previous suggestion and not let Agnes become my slave. Su-yi said, Oh, why? If your wish is for the elves and humans to coexist peacefully and live together, then you can't let the elves appear in front of the humans with a mark of inferiority. If Agnes appears in front of the humans as my slave, then the other humans will still think of the elves as the elves who were defeated in the race war thousands of years ago. Their view of you elves won't change at all. Su-yi replied. Elder Alicia thought for a bit before asking, then what is the difference between not letting Agnes become your slave? There is a very large difference. Su-yi said in a certain voice. I want Agnes to work for our company because I like her talent in art. I want her to be our company's professional designer. If she had appeared as a normal elf and not as my slave, then the other humans would have paid more attention to her identity as a designer and would have paid more attention to her value. Us humans are a very realistic race. Only when you have value will you receive our attention and make us treat you seriously. Elder Alicia thought for a long time before slowly saying, Chairman Su, I think you've given me a very good lesson this time. Yes, it is because humans are a very realistic race that they were able to stand out from the other races of the continent. In the end, they were able to take control of the continent from us elves who were too arrogant to see reality. If we want to continue living, we can only be realistic like you humans. Showing the value of us elves other than our beauty is what we should do. After saying this, Elder Alicia suddenly stood up and gave Su-yi a deep bow. Chairman Su, I have to thank you for letting me understand these principles even more clearly. Chapter 139. As an elder of the elves who had lived in this world for over 300 years, Alicia had outstanding wisdom and foresight, as well as a clear understanding of this world. Actually, even if she didn't talk to Su-yi, she had already discovered the problem the elves were facing. Only with Su-yi's appearance, it gave her a good chance to carry out her ideas. Therefore, after Su-yi and Elder Alicia had a long talk, they easily established a cooperative relationship. In the initial cooperation between the two sides, Su-yi wanted to help the Night Song tribe solve their water source problem. For this, Su-yi's initial plan was to build a dam in the upper reaches of the falling rainforest. At the same time, they would clean up the lower reaches of the river, finally opening up the entire river. This was a large project, and even on the technologically advanced Earth, it would take a long time to complete. Naturally, it wouldn't be that easy on the signs. Moreover, this time, in order to properly manage the river, Su-yi decided to ask the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce in charge of this project to use the reinforced concrete technology he had just learned from him to build a sturdy dam, as well as reinforce the riverbanks. According to their estimates, as long as this project was completed, they wouldn't have to worry about the river changing its course for at least 100 years. This project required a large amount of money, and the Night Song tribe naturally couldn't take out that much money. Therefore, the Night Song tribe followed Su-yi's request and began researching materials related to resin. At the same time, they began collecting large amounts of resin. When Su-yi and the Night Song tribe developed a large-scale resin smelting furnace, they would begin producing large amounts of resin materials for use in the new flyer. As for Agnes' request to work in the new flyer, because of Su-yi's suggestion, Agnes didn't become Su-yi's slave. Therefore, Elder Alicia didn't see this request as a reward at all. Looking at it from the surface, repairing the dam and dredging the river cost quite a bit. According to Su-yi's preliminary estimates, even if this river wasn't big, it would cost at least 100,000 gold coins. The reward the Night Song tribe gave was without a doubt not enough. But in the long run, mastering the resin material process was of great significance to the development of New Flyer. At the same time, it could be regarded as opening up a new point of interest. Because of this, they had also obtained a good cooperative relationship with the Night Song tribe. All in all, New Flyer was actually more profitable. Su-yi, Steele, and Vivian stayed in the Night Song tribe for 3 days. It was not until Su-yi had thoroughly explained to the elves his various requirements for resin material research that they left. Because Agnes wanted to stay in the tribe for New Year's, when she left, Agnes only sent the 3 of them out of the falling rainforest. After sending them to the Angola tribe, she turned to leave. Because today was already December 30th, which was the last day of the year, the three of them didn't stay in the Angola tribe at all. They just greeted Chief Monto, Chief Saluka, Cambi, and the other dwarves who came after hearing the news before quickly driving their horse carriages back to Bana City. It was close to dusk when they arrived in Bana City. When they entered Bana City, the three of them found that Banta City was very lively today. There was light coming from the windows of each house, and there were all kinds of noises coming from them, making it seem very lively. It seemed like whether it was Earth or signs, no matter which world it was, welcoming New Year's was a very important matter. It was also a good time for families to reunite. Seeing Sue-E looking at the side of the road, Steele couldn't help saying, "Sue-E, why don't you and Vivian come to my house for New Year's? There is no need to mention grandfather. Mom and Dad will definitely welcome you and Vivian. If you go, they will definitely be very happy. It's better than you and Vivian being alone, isn't it?" Sue-E turned to look at Steele and revealed a faint smile. He shook his head and said, "No need. Steele, I'm very grateful for your kind intentions. But welcoming New Year's is a very important matter. According to the customs of my hometown, the last day before New Year's has to be spent at home, so I won't disturb you at your house. Then again, I will be going to your house tomorrow morning to celebrate New Year's with your grandfather. We just haven't seen each other for a single night." Steele's face turned a bit red as she muttered, "It's not like I have to see you before letting you go." The horse carriage quickly arrived at Steele's house. When Steele jumped out of the horse carriage, Sue-E didn't have any intention of coming in. He waved his hand at Steele and brought Vivian back to his rented house. Looking at the rented house that he had been renting for half a year and had forgotten to change, Sue-E couldn't help but laugh. It seemed that he would be spending his fourth New Year in this world in this very shabby little room. Although it was just him and Vivian, Sue-E still decided to make a sumptuous meal. In addition to the few dishes that Vivian was mainly responsible for, Sue-E also relied on his memory to make some dishes that were commonly eaten on Earth during the New Year. Because Sue-E had never cooked on Earth before, these dishes were terrible to look at. But even if they tasted terrible, Sue-E and Vivian still ate very happily. Although the liveliness was not as good as other houses, the atmosphere was not bad at all under Sue-Yi's efforts. The only thing that was lacking was that there was no television in this world, and there was no spring festival gala that Sue-E rarely watched. Compared to Sue-Yi's slight disappointment, Vivian was sincerely happy. Because not long after she was born, her parents, who were also slaves, died in the famine of the Lampari kingdom more than 10 years ago. Therefore, from a young age, Vivian had no impression of her family and never had the memory of spending New Year's with her family. In her 15 years of life, the previous 14 years had already made her do all she could to survive. If she didn't meet Sue-E and was bought by Sue-E, not to mention having rich food, warm clothes, and enough knowledge to go to school, she might even suddenly die. Therefore, on this night, to be able to eat New Year's Eve dinner with Sue-E, her most beloved master, and happily accompany Sue-E to shout wantonly, was already her greatest happiness. After they finished eating, Sue-E looked at the countless stars shining in the night sky and suddenly became interested. He suggested to Vivian that they go out for a walk. Of course, Vivian wouldn't go against him. She quickly helped the slightly drunk Sue-E put on his jacket and wanted to clean up the mess on the table, but Sue-E waved his hand to stop her. "Don't worry about that much today. Just relax and be happy." So Vivian smiled as she hugged Sue-Yi's arm. The two of them left the house and casually strolled through Banda City at night. Perhaps it was because he was a bit drunk. Sue-E pointed at the children running around and playing on the streets. When he was young, he would definitely play with firecrackers on New Year's Eve. He had once burnt a pile of straw because of playing with firecrackers and had been beaten because of that. After a while, he looked up at the stars in the sky and said to Vivian that in his hometown, there was a constellation in the sky that was easy to recognize called Orion. There were 3 stars that formed a straight line, which was Orion's belt. After a while, his expression dimmed, and he even said with tears in his eyes that this was already the 4th New Year's that he hadn't spent with his family. Now he missed his parents very much, and he didn't know if they were doing well. After a while, Vivian supported Sue-E and silently listened to the words that came out of his mouth that she had never heard of before. The doubt in her heart became deeper and deeper. What were firecrackers? Were they very fun? Why did Master say that his hometown had an Orion constellation in the sky? Could it be that his hometown sky was different from Banta City's sky? Since Master missed his parents, why didn't he go back? Questions appeared in Vivian's mind one by one, but she didn't plan on asking because she was very clear that her master just needed to talk to her. They chatted like this while walking forward. If that time really comes, I think I'll die from sadness. Don't worry, that kind of situation won't happen. He put his arm around Heinz's shoulder and patted him hard. These 2 workshops might disappear because they are too small and can't support the needs of our company. What we need is a bigger working space like the new workshops. However, even if they disappeared, more production workshops would appear to replace them. You have to believe that with the development of our company, the magic machine industry will be like a ball of fire, spreading across the continent in an instant and igniting all of Signs. At that time, the entire Signs will be filled with our company's factories and workshops. Heinz, when that time comes, will you still be able to see each workshop with your own eyes? Heinz's eyes looked into the dark night, but his expression was clearly immersed in Su Yi's description. After a while, he asked in a mutter, Su Yi, what you said, will it become reality? Su Yi nodded with unusual determination. It will. Because the magic machine industry has already sprouted on this continent, no one can stop its growth. There will be a day when our Frestec Chamber of Commerce will create a large magic machine industrial empire on the continent. Chapter 140. On the 5th day of New Year's, Su Yi received a special invitation. This invitation came from the City Lord's Manor, inviting Su Yi to represent the new flyer at the New Year's banquet held by the City Lord's Manor. It was different from the normal banquets the City Lord's Manor sent to Su Yi before. This invitation was signed by the City Lord Count Sean Samo himself. Su Yi could reject the invitations from before, but since this was an invitation from the Lord City Lord, it was very hard for him to reject it as easily as before. Moreover, there was something written on the invitation. Other than inviting many merchant representatives from Banta City, there were also merchants from Karma City that was the closest to Banta City. This surprised Su Yi a bit. It was only the 5th day of New Year's, so why would the merchants of Karma City suddenly come to Banta City? Actually, this is an old rule. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's chairman Mun Cruz had a glass of red wine in his hand as he explained this to Su Yi with a smile. At the beginning of each New Year's, Karma City's City Lord Count Anaris will lead the merchants of Karma City to visit our Banta City. Then, after a few days, the Lord City Lord will choose some representatives from our Banta City to visit Karma City. Chairman Su, you just joined the business world last year, so it isn't strange that you don't know this rule. But your new flyer was only established last year, and now you're qualified to be invited to this banquet by the Lord City Lord. This really is shocking. Su Yi looked at him. What? You think that our new flyer isn't qualified? How is that possible? Chairman Cruz shouted with an exaggerated expression. Chairman Su, although your new flyer hasn't been established for long, who in Banta City dares question your qualifications? Then again, we are close partners, so no matter who I think isn't qualified, I wouldn't think that you aren't, don't you think? Su Yi laughed. It's just a joke, Chairman Cruz. You don't need to be this nervous. Chairman Cruz said that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and the new flyer were close partners. Although it was a bit exaggerated, it wasn't too exaggerated. Since the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce obtained cement from the new flyer and grasped the various uses of cement, the construction quality of the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's buildings had increased by leaps and bounds. In just a short 2 months, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had received many good reviews, and the orders they received had increased orders. Compared to last year, it had suddenly increased orders by 30%. This increase of 30% didn't include the construction orders the Frestec Chamber of Commerce gave to the Omra Chamber of Commerce. On the 3rd day of the New Year's, Su especially found Chairman Cruz. Other than congratulating him on the New Year's, his more important goal was to ask him about the large amount of construction projects that the new flyer needed. Other than building a new factory on Viscount Leslie's territory for the household magic machine workshop, there were two large projects that even Chairman Cruz was shocked by. One of them was to build new houses for the Norma tribe and the Angola tribe, creating new houses for their tribes. The other was to solve the water problem of the Night Song tribe, changing the sandy river that flowed through the falling rainforest. He didn't tell Chairman Cruz why he wanted to do these two projects, but Chairman Cruz wasn't that interested in Su Yi's goal. Other than questioning Su Yi's decision to change the sandy river without Count Samoyed's approval, most of his attention was focused on the cost of these two projects. Su Yi had very high requirements for these two projects, asking the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to use the best materials and workers to build them. This meant that the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would receive the highest profit from these two projects. According to Su Yi's initial plan, Chairman Cruz easily determined that the total cost of these two projects would be over 300,000 gold coins. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce would receive a profit of at least 50,000 gold coins. Although New Flyer's profit was high, it had only been established for a short time, so it was impossible for them to take out a large amount of 300,000 gold coins at once. So Su Yi proposed to use the cement from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce as payment, which was greatly welcomed by Chairman Cruz. Now the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's construction projects couldn't be separated from cement. Therefore, Chairman Cruz had asked Su Yi several times to extend the right to sell cement to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce, but he had been firmly rejected by Su Yi. But no matter what, right now New Flyer and the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce could be considered close. With a close relationship, they could indeed be called close partners. Actually, when Su Yi said that there are people doubting the qualifications of New Flyer, it was just a joke. The ones at the banquet were all companies from Banda City, and after developing for half a year, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce was already known by all the companies in Banda City. Everyone was clear on the strong potential of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. After the auction of the two mines last time, no one doubted the strength of New Flyer. Being able to steal an iron mine from the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce and using the loan from the Chimera Chamber of Commerce, no matter what point it was enough to make the other companies look at New Flyer with new eyes. There were even many people who guessed that there was a powerful backer behind Su Yi. Based on the good relationship between Su Yi and Viscount Leslie, it was very likely that the backer behind him was the Stag family that was one of the strongest in the Lampari Kingdom. Of course, no one doubted him, but that didn't mean that everyone welcomed him. There were people like Chairman Cruz who were very warm towards Su Yi, and there were people who weren't that strong towards Su Yi, but there was clear hostility. This person was, of course, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's chairman, Fuller Morgan. Because New Flyer had stolen an iron mine at the auction, Fuller Morgan had been reprimanded by an important member of the Joel family. He had almost lost his position as chairman because of this, so it wasn't strange for Fuller Morgan to hate Su Yi. Normally speaking, when the other side showed clear hostility, there wouldn't be anyone who didn't know what was good for them. But Su Yi was an exception. When he spotted Fuller Morgan in the crowd, he walked over with a glass of wine in his hand and a smile on his face. "Chairman Morgan, Happy New Year's." Su Yi raised his cup to toast Chairman Morgan. Although Chairman Morgan was very dissatisfied, he still had the good demeanor of a great merchant. He clinked glasses with Su Yi and squeezed out an ugly smile. "Happy New Year's." Su Yi drank a cup of wine and praised before saying, "Chairman Morgan, I've been too busy these past few days, so I haven't had time to talk to you. Now that I have a chance to meet you, I want to ask, have you considered the mining magic machines I mentioned to you last time?" Chairman Morgan was surprised. He remembered that after the auction last time, Su Yi had indeed mentioned this matter to him, but Su Yi had only given him a simple concept. Adding in the fact that Chairman Morgan was in a bad mood and didn't seriously listen, he had forgotten about it. He had been very busy with the mining magic machines during this time, so Chairman Morgan had thrown this matter to the back of his mind. Now that he heard Su Yi mention it again, Chairman Morgan thought about it before cautiously replying, "I've considered it. But Chairman Su, although I believe in the abilities of you and your New Flyer, without seeing anything, There's no meaning in just saying empty words, right? Oh, then Chairman Morgan is actually interested? Sue, he said with a smile. It's easy to see it. It's very easy to see the real thing. It's a good thing that our company has developed a small magic drill, which is very helpful in increasing the efficiency of mining. If Chairman Morgan has time, how about you come take a look? Small magic drilling machine? That name sounds quite good. Chairman Morgan was an old merchant in the end, so he wouldn't be easily affected by his emotions. Hearing that Sue, he wasn't joking, he thought about it before saying with a nod, "All right, Chairman Sue, you can send someone to bring this thing over and let me study it. If it's easy to use, we can discuss other things." Seeing that Chairman Morgan agreed, Sue, he didn't care about the reserved look he had as he nodded with a smile. Not long after, Count Samo suddenly came out from the back of the banquet hall. Beside him, there was a middle-aged man who was a bit short, but had a firm look on his face. There was a trace of astuteness in his eyes as he walked side by side with him. It was clear that this middle-aged man should be Karma City's city lord, Count Anaris. Following behind the two city lords were a group of merchants from Karma City who had come from afar. Su'i looked over and found several familiar faces. They were all merchants who had come to Banda City to order large amounts of magic machines from the new flyer. The two city lords each gave a brief speech on the rostrum, stating that the main purpose of this banquet was to give the merchants of the two cities an opportunity to interact with each other. They hoped that everyone could make full use of this opportunity to communicate and cooperate with each other to promote the common development of the two cities. It should be said that this kind of interaction was very meaningful. Signs was limited by technology, so there weren't many channels for communication. If merchants wanted to do business, they could only do it face to face. Now that the city lords of the two cities were personally holding this banquet, it gave the merchants of the two cities a very good chance. Of course, the premise was that Count Samo and Anaris had a good relationship, so they could cooperate to hold this banquet. When the two-lord count announced the start of the banquet and everyone could talk, the merchants of the two cities immediately found their friends and began chatting in groups of twos and threes. Sue, he wanted to find the Karma merchants he knew to talk to, but he suddenly found that Samo Count was waving his hand at him. Chapter 141. This was indeed a piece of good news. As for Su Yi's request to rent land, after the king considered it, he actually agreed to it. As for the specifics, they would have to wait for Su Yi to submit a detailed plan stating his goal and use of the land before the king would consider it. Moreover, this was based on the premise that New Flyer could finish the first batch of agricultural magic machines. Otherwise, there was no need to mention it. Of course, for New Flyer, who had already developed a series of magic press machines, this premise wasn't hard at all. Compared to the production of a magic machine workshop that was already on the right track, Su Yi cared more about research and development. The workers of the magic machine workshop had been moved to the new workshop, so the old workshop had been turned into a magic machine development workshop by Su Yi. Now Camby, Bordeaux, and the 13 most experienced dwarven craftsmen were in charge of developing the magic machines in this workshop. Although the magic press machines could be used now, this was only a preliminary success. Whether it was Su Yi, Camby, or the other dwarves, they all felt that these magic machines had a lot of room for improvement. Actually, if it wasn't for the fact that the king and the agriculture department's order was too tight, according to Camby and the other dwarves, these magic machines could only be considered finished in 3 months. For Su Yi, who was a famous mechanical engineer on Earth, he was very clear that developing a magic machine wouldn't just take a short month. It also wouldn't take 3 months. Rather, it wouldn't have an end. Even if the mechanical industry on Earth was very developed, the research on machines never stopped. There would be new results every year. This was because for the mechanical engineering companies on Earth, as long as they had advanced enough technology that surpassed most other companies, they would be able to take a share of the market. Although there was only New Flyer in the signs right now, so there wasn't any pressure on their technology, Su Yi didn't relax his request at all. Actually, as Su Yi's research on magic machines continued to deepen, there were many times when he didn't completely copy the mechanical theory from Earth. Rather, he would make changes based on the characteristics of magic and the signs. For example, the medium-sized magic drill that he had Camby and the others develop was very different from the ones on Earth. The ones on Earth mainly used power to drive the drill bit into the hard surface of the ground, but the drill that Sue-E was developing now used the special magic of the signs. There were several powerful 5th-grade Earth magic arrays on the drill bit. With the help of these Earth magic arrays, as long as the drill bit was close to the ground, the power of the magic arrays would be displayed. It would directly loosen the ground of the rock of Earth and of itself, saving quite a bit of effort to drill. The small magic drill that Sue-E had used in the Night Song tribe before could only be considered a test product, but it was already enough to drill through several meters of rock. The medium-sized magic drill that he was developing now was a step further, and its drilling effects were even more prominent. Hines had asked Sue-E why he was developing this thing before. It was because although New Flyer had obtained an iron mine, they didn't have enough funds to develop it, so they could only put aside for now. This thing couldn't be used, even if it was developed. Sue-E could only look down on Hines's lack of foresight in his heart. Even if he couldn't use this thing, there were many people who needed it. For example, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's chairman, Fuller Morgan. Chairman Sue, this thing is actually this strong. Chairman Morgan looked at the giant boulder that had collapsed in front of him in surprise. He didn't care about the large amount of dust that was kicked up as his mouth opened wide in shock, not being able to close it for a while. After being invited by Sue-E to see New Flyer's new magic machine, Chairman Morgan had hesitated for a while before finally deciding to take a look. But he never thought that the small magic drill that Sue-E had demonstrated in front of him would be this strong. In less than 3 minutes, it had turned the 3-meter-tall, 4-meter-wide, and 2-meter-thick giant boulder in front of him into pieces. As the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's chairman, Chairman Morgan could tell with a single glance that this giant boulder was a common iron or found in iron mines, which was very hard. If it was the workers of the mine who used tools like picks and drills to break it, this giant piece of iron or would take several workers 1 to 2 hours to break it. But Sue-E had just had 2 young men who didn't seem that strong lift the magic drill and drill into the center of the giant iron ore. Then this giant piece of ore that even Chairman Morgan, who had rich experience in iron mines, found hard to deal with, was drilled in the middle and shattered into several pieces. Then the 2 of them continued to drill into the larger piece of ore with the magic drill, turning all the ore into pieces in the end. The entire process only took a little more than 10 minutes. Hearing Chairman Morgan's sigh of surprise, Sue-E revealed a faint smile. "How about it? Chairman Morgan, are you satisfied with this magic drill?" "Of course." Chairman Morgan suddenly stopped and looked at Sue-E. The excited and shocked expression on his face disappeared as he gave a soft cough and said in a slow voice, "This thing is indeed not bad. But Chairman Sue, your new flyer doesn't seem to be using it, right? What did you research this thing for?" Seeing Chairman Morgan's calm appearance, Sue-E found it funny, but he revealed a surprised expression as he said, "Who says we don't need it? Chairman Morgan, did you forget that our company bought an iron ore mine from an auction some time ago? We developed this thing for the purpose of mining. Chairman Morgan, your Fulcao Chamber of Commerce is an expert in mining. I invited you here to let you see. Isn't this thing very good for mining?" Chairman Morgan wanted to shake his head and say no, but the facts were in front of him. If he denied the might of this magic drill, it would be slapping his own face. So he could only give a dry laugh and give a nod. It's very good." Sue-E clapped his hands and excitedly said, "That's great. Being able to obtain Chairman Morgan's approval means that this magic machine really is good. I could be assured like this. If we wanted to mine that mine, our company didn't have enough manpower and funds, but now that we have this thing, we can barely try mining it." Chairman Morgan couldn't help giving a cold laugh. "Chairman Sue, you're looking down on mining too much. Although I admit that with this magic drill, it would be much easier to mine ores, but mining isn't as simple as just breaking the ores and extracting them. The ores, crushed stones, and other processes No matter which one it is, they all require large amounts of manpower to complete. With your new flyer, Chairman Morgan gave a soft snort as his face was filled with disdain. Sui acted like he didn't see Chairman Morgan's expression. He gave a shrug and said with a relaxed smile, "That's also very easy. Our Frestec Chamber of Commerce is best at developing magic machines to replace people. As for your processing, crushing stones, and other processes, we can also develop some magic machines to complete them. This isn't that hard, isn't it?" Chairman Morgan wanted to reprimand Sui for treating mining as too simple. But thinking about it, he found that since New Flyer had already developed this magic drill, it wasn't impossible for them to develop other magic machines for mining. Thinking of this, Chairman Morgan's expression couldn't help changing. He looked at the magic drill that was resting on the side, and after thinking for a bit, he couldn't help asking Sui, "Chairman Su, this magic drill, you should be selling it, right?" Sui secretly laughed in his heart, but he revealed a surprised expression as he asked back, "What? Chairman Morgan, you're interested?" Chairman Morgan said with knit brows, "Chairman Su, if you're not prepared to sell this thing to me, why did you specially call me over? I just said it. I wanted to ask for your opinion." Looking at Chairman Morgan's ugly expression, Sui immediately changed his words. But since Chairman Morgan is interested in this thing, it's easy to talk about it. "Sell. Of course I'm selling. Our Frestec Chamber of Commerce sells magic machines to begin with." "All right. How much are you planning on selling this thing for?" Chairman Morgan asked. I don't have a price yet. But since Chairman Morgan is asking, "All right, since we're old friends, I'll give you a discount. It'll be a round number, 100 gold coins for one. What do you think?" Sui said, "100 gold coins for one?" Chairman Morgan's eyes opened wide as he looked at Sui in disbelief. "Why don't you just steal it?" Seeing Chairman Morgan's angry look, Sui innocently blinked his eyes and revealed an aggrieved look. "Chairman Morgan, this is a very fair price. Are you still not satisfied?" "Fair my ass." Chairman Morgan held himself back and didn't blurt out any vulgarities. After desperately taking a few deep breaths, he calmed down and said in a deep voice, "Chairman Sui, stop joking. Give me a real price, and if I'm satisfied, I'll order a few from you." Sui revealed an awkward look. After thinking for a while, he said with a sigh, "All right, based on Chairman Morgan, I'll give you a bit. What do you think about 95 gold coins for one?" Chairman Morgan looked at Sui and was too lazy to be angry. He coldly said, 50 gold coins for one. Don't even think about it." Sui shook his head. "Chairman Morgan, I can't accept this price. If you really want it, I'll give you a real price. 90 gold coins for one? I can't go any lower." "Humph! The cost of this machine to me is less than 20 gold coins, and you dare say 90 gold coins for one. You're too black-hearted. 55 gold coins, it's this price. You also have to look at how much effort our company has spent to develop it. All right, the lowest is 88 gold coins." After bargaining, the final price was set at 78 gold coins for one. Chairman Morgan wasn't satisfied with this price, but he couldn't do anything about it. After personally witnessing the might of this magic drill, he had to admit that if he had the help of this machine, his mining efficiency would increase by quite a bit. How could he miss this opportunity? So he naturally couldn't insist on the price. Although Sui looked like he had suffered a large loss, he was actually filled with joy in his heart. The cost of the materials for this magic drill was only a trivial 5 gold coins. Although the research cost was very high, as long as enough units were sold, the research cost would gradually decrease until it was completely negligible. So using the most rigorous method, if they sold it at this price, they could earn a net profit of over 60 gold coins for a single new flyer. Moreover, although Chairman Morgan had only ordered 100 units from Sui at first, he had also said that if he felt it was good after using it, he would continue to order in large quantities. Sui was very confident in this. The technology of the signs was behind, so mining was done by hand. How could this method compare to mechanical work? As long as the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce tried the large increase in efficiency brought by the magic drill, they wouldn't be able to break free from it. According to the preliminary discussion, According to convention, the two of them should have a meal together to get to know each other. But Chairman Morgan didn't have a good impression of Sue E., so he didn't mention this matter at all. As for Sue E., he had something else to do, so he didn't mention it at all. So the two of them bid farewell, and Sue E. went to the horse carriage company in Banda City. What he needed to do was to come here to welcome a group of special guests. Chapter 142. He followed Samo Count and Anaris to a small enclosed pavilion next to the banquet hall. The two lords took their seats. Then Samo Count pointed at Sue E. and smiled at Anaris. Here, Anaris, this is the Sue E. I mentioned to you last time. Count Anaris looked at Sue E. and nodded with a smile. I've heard that Chairman Sue is young and promising. Now that I see it, you're really too young. An old man like me can't help but feel envious. Sue E. smiled. Lord Count, you're now in the golden age of a man. I should be more envious of you. Oh, I'm already an old man. I don't have the energy to do anything. How can I be as energetic as a young man like you? Why are you envious of me? Count Anaris asked with a smile. Sue E. pointed at an empty chair. At your age, you should at least have a chair to sit on, right? Count Samo and Count Anaris were startled. They looked at each other and laughed at the same time. Count Anaris pointed at Count Samo, and laughed with his mouth wide open. He said loudly, Sean, this is your fault, isn't it? How can you not even arrange a seat for a guest? You even want Chairman Sue to scold you in a roundabout way. Count Samo also laughed for a while. He glanced at Sue E. and said, I've always reserved a seat for Chairman Sue in my mansion. Unfortunately, Chairman Sue is a busy man and rarely comes here. If it weren't for you, Chairman Sue probably wouldn't have come to this banquet. All right, Chairman Sue, sit anywhere you like. Don't let Anaris laugh at me for not knowing how to treat guests. Sue E. found a seat closer to Count Sean with a smile before asking, Lord City Lord, Lord Count Anaris, for the two of you to specially call me over, do you have something to tell me? Not really, but Count Anaris wants to ask you for a favor. However, it's not convenient for him to ask because of his face, so he asked me to call you over for him. Count Samo replied. Sue E. turned to Count Anaris. Lord Count, you're too polite. If there's anything I can do for you, please don't hesitate to ask. This isn't an order, but a sincere request. Speaking of business, Count Anaris' smile disappeared from his face, and he said with a serious look, Chairman Sue, before this, I want to express my protest on behalf of our Karma City merchants. Sue E. was stunned. Protest? Protest what? Our Karma City and Saltan City are the two closest cities to Banda City, so we can be considered neighbors. But why did your new flyer agree to sell the production magic machines to Saltan City's Farsac Chamber of Commerce and not sell them to our Karma City's company? Count Anaris asked. This, Sue E. looked at Count Anaris in surprise. Seeing that he didn't seem like he was joking, he seriously thought about it before saying with a bitter smile, You really can't blame me for this. Our new flyer gave the same conditions to the Farsac Chamber of Commerce and our Karma City counterparts, but the Farsac Chamber of Commerce agreed to this condition and the counterparts in your city didn't agree to this condition. You can't blame me for being unfair to them, right? Oh, I've heard the merchants of our city say that it was because your new flyer's conditions were too harsh and they couldn't accept it, so they didn't agree. Count Anaris continued. Sue E. spread his hands and helplessly said, Sir Count, the conditions are the same. If the Farsac Chamber of Commerce can agree, why can't our Karma City counterparts agree? Actually, even I feel it's very strange. I've clearly given them a chance to buy the production magic machines and sell them in Karma City, but they don't agree. Rather, they choose to come to Banda City to buy the finished magic machines from our new flyer and bring them back to Karma City to sell. Could it be that they don't think this is troublesome and inefficient? Count Anaris shook his head. I don't care what they think. Only as the city lord of Karma City, I have an obligation to help them achieve their goals. You just said that the merchants of our city came all the way to Banta City to buy the magic machines of your new flyer to sell. This is the main point. Since your Farsac Chamber of Commerce's products are this popular in our Karma City, Why hasn't your company considered opening a factory in our Karma City? Why can't you just directly produce magic machines in our Karma City and sell them locally? He couldn't help being surprised as he asked in an uncertain voice, Count Anaris, your meaning is, you want our new flyer to invest in a factory in your Karma City? Invest in a factory? This word sounds very new, but it is indeed like this. Count Anaris said with a nod and a smile. After receiving this confirmation, Su Yi's thoughts became active. As for investing in a factory in a city other than Bana City, Su Yi already had this plan. But on the Signs continent, where information exchange wasn't developed, each city was like a small kingdom. With the Frestac Chamber of Commerce's current strength, if they wanted to rashly invest in a factory in another city, they would have to face all kinds of problems that were just too complicated. If they weren't careful, their investment would be wasted. So he had always been cautious when it came to this matter. He planned to take it step by step and wait until New Flyer was strong enough before considering it. But this didn't mean that He would give up. Now that there was such a good chance in front of He, how could he ignore it? Thinking about it, He asked then, Sir Count, what kind of factory are you planning on having our company invest in? Count Anaris waved his hand. That is your company's matter, I don't care. But I can reveal some things to you first. In order to welcome your new flyer to our Karma City, to invest in a factory, I will use the name of the City Lord Manor to rent a portion of land to your company. At the same time, I will give your company some help and make it easier for you to complete this investment. What do you think? Su Yi's heart was filled with joy. According to what Count Anaris said, this meant that this investment had the support of Anaris Count. With the support of Karma City's City Lord, if nothing unexpected happened, the new Flyers factory in Karma City would be unimpeded. But thinking about it, he felt it was strange. Sir Count, why did you specially look for a new flyer? I think that as long as you give us some special help, no matter if it is any company in our Bana City, they would be very happy to invest in Karma City, right? Of course it's because your new flyer is special. Count Anaris said. He shook his head. Our Karma City and Bana City have been trading with each other for many years, so the old companies of the two cities have already invested in other cities. Their potential has been dug out, and there isn't a new direction to explore. But your new flyer is different. Not only was your company established last year, the products you sell are magic machines that have never appeared before. In Karma City, your company's magic machines are very popular. Even my family has bought quite a few of them. So of course I feel that inviting your company to invest in our city would be very beneficial. I admit that Sir Count's words are very reasonable, and I do want to invest in Karma City. But he was silent for a bit before looking at Count Anaris. Our new flyer is a Banta City company after all. So on this matter, I feel that we should ask the City Lord's opinion. What? Chairman Su, are you kicking the problem back to me? Count Anaris scolded with a smile before saying with a serious look, since I called you here to talk to Count Anaris, it means that I have already reached an agreement with Count Anaris. You don't need to worry about this. I support your new flyer's investment in Karma City, and I sincerely hope that new flyer can stand firm in Karma City and develop quickly. Are you warning me? Count Anaris shook his head with a smile before saying to Chairman Su, please be assured. Since I'm inviting you on behalf of Karma City, I will definitely give you the greatest support and guarantee that your company will develop smoothly in our city. He looked at Count Anaris before looking at Count Anaris before saying with a smile, since I have the City Lord's support and Sir Count's invitation, if I still reject it, it really wouldn't be wise. All right, Sir Count, I represent New Flyer to promise you that we will definitely invest in a factory in Karma City. Good. Cheers to our cooperation. Count Anaris raised his cup with a smile. And Count Anaris raised their cups and clinked them with his before drinking it all. After that, and Count Anaris had a discussion and reached a preliminary agreement. Count Anaris said that he would provide a piece of land that was no less than 5 hectares and had a good location to rent to New Flyer, allowing New Flyer to build a factory. Sui represented New Flyer to promise Count Anaris that they would build several household magic machine factories in Karma City, including the magic fan, the magic rice cooker, the magic air conditioner, and the magic lamp production line. At the same time, they would also build an after-sales service center for related magic machines in Karma City. Other than this, they would also build an agricultural magic machine factory to satisfy Karma City's demand for agricultural magic machines. Although this was only a preliminary agreement, just based on this agreement, if the Frestac Chamber of Commerce's production base in Karma City was built, it would be much bigger than the Frestac Chamber of Commerce's factory in Bana City. So when Count Anaris and Sui reached an agreement and left the small room in satisfaction, Sui, who was left behind, couldn't help asking Count Anaris, "Lord City Lord, don't you feel that? Like this, it will scatter a part of our New Flyer's strength and reduce the taxes our company pays in Bana City?" "Of course I know that." Count Sean smiled. Anaris said with a faint smile, "But I'm very optimistic about the development prospects of your New Flyer. It isn't limited to our Bana City to begin with. Being able to go out earlier and open up in other cities, whether it is for your company or for our Bana City, it is all good. It's just because of this." So he was a bit doubtful. "What? This isn't enough." Count Anaris looked at Sui. After thinking about it, he put down the wine cup, and the smile on his face had a different meaning as he said, "All right, since you want to ask, I'll tell you a bit. The reason why I agreed to Anaris this time was 1, because of our personal friendship, and 2, Karma City needs you." "Karma City needs me?" Sui was even more confused. If Karma City encountered something that even the city lord, Count Anaris, felt embarrassed about, what could he, as the president of a small chamber of commerce, help him? It isn't considered a problem. It's just that your New Flyer can help Anaris solve some problems. I'll give an example. Your Frestac Chamber of Commerce's factory has hired over 200 Bana City workers at once, giving these 200 families a fixed income, making their lives more stable and peaceful. This has helped me solve a large problem. This is something that many companies that are stronger than your New Flyer can't compare to." Sui instantly understood. In the end, what Count Anaris cared about was the problem of employment that many leaders on Earth cared about the most. When it came to solving the problem of employment, what could compare to the manufacturing industry that had a high degree of labor? Chapter 143. This was indeed a piece of good news. As for Sui's request to rent land, after the king considered it, he actually agreed to it. As for the specifics, they would have to wait for Sui to submit a detailed plan stating his goal and use of the land before the king would consider it. Moreover, this was based on the premise that New Flyer could finish the first batch of agricultural magic machines. Otherwise, there was no need to mention it. Of course, for New Flyer, who had already developed a series of magic press machines, this premise wasn't hard at all. Compared to the production of the magic machine workshop that was already on the right track, Sui cared more about research and development. The workers of the magic machine workshop had been moved to the new workshop, so the old workshop had been turned into a magic machine development workshop by Sui. Now Camby, Bordeaux, and the 13 most experienced dwarven craftsmen were in charge of developing the magic machines in this workshop. Although the magic press machines could be used now, this was only a preliminary success. Whether it was Sui, Camby, or the other dwarves, they all felt that these magic machines still had room for improvement. Actually, if it wasn't for the fact that the king and the agriculture department's order was too tight, according to Camby and the other dwarves, these magic machines could only be considered finished in 3 months. For Sui, who was a famous mechanical engineer on Earth, he was very clear that developing a magic machine wouldn't just take a short month. It wouldn't take 3 months, but rather it would take no end. Even if the mechanical industry on Earth was very developed, the research on machines never stopped. There would be new results every year. This was because for the mechanical engineering companies on Earth, as long as they had advanced enough technology that surpassed most other companies, they would be able to get share of the market. Although there was only New Flyer in signs right now, and there wasn't any pressure on their technology, Sui didn't relax his request at all. In fact, as Su Yi's research on magic machines deepened, he no longer completely copied the mechanical theories from Earth. Instead, he would make corresponding changes based on the characteristics of magic and signs. For example, the medium-sized magic drilling machine he had Camby and the others develop was very different from the ones on Earth. The drilling machines on Earth mainly relied on power to drive the drill bit to drill into the hard surface layer of the ground. The drilling machine that Su Yi was developing now incorporated the unique magic of signs and attached several powerful level 5 magic arrays on the drill bit. With the help of these Earth-type magic arrays, the drill only needed to approach the surface of the ground for the magic array's power to manifest. The magic arrays would directly shake and loosen the earth and rocks, saving a lot of effort when drilling. The small magic drilling machine that Su Yi used in the Night Song tribe before could only be considered a test product, but it was already enough to drill through several meters of rock. The medium-sized magic drilling machine that he was developing now was a step further, and its drilling effects were even more prominent. Heinz had asked Su Yi why he was developing this thing before. It was because although New Flyer had obtained an iron mine, they didn't have enough funds to invest in developing it. So, they could only put aside for now. This thing couldn't be used even if it was developed. Su Yi could only look down on Heinz's lack of foresight in his heart. Even if he couldn't use this thing, there were many people who needed it. For example, the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's chairman, Fuller Morgan. Chairman Su, this thing is actually this strong. Chairman Morgan looked at the giant boulder that had collapsed in front of him in surprise. He didn't care about the large amount of dust that was kicked up as his mouth opened wide in shock, not being able to close it for a while. After being invited by Su Yi to see New Flyer's new magic machine, Chairman Morgan had hesitated for a while before finally deciding to take a look. But he never thought that the small magic drill that Su Yi demonstrated in front of him would be this powerful. In less than 3 minutes, it had turned the 3-meter-tall, 4-meter-wide, and 2-meter-thick giant rock in front of him into a pile of broken rocks. As the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce's chairman, Chairman Morgan could tell with a single glance that this giant boulder was a common iron or found in iron mines, which was very hard. If it was the workers of the mine who used tools like picks and drills to break it, this giant piece of iron would take several workers 1 to 2 hours to break it. But Su had just had 2 young men who didn't seem that strong lift the magic drilling machine and drilled down into the center of the giant iron ore. Then this giant piece of ore that even Chairman Morgan, who had rich experience in iron mines, found hard to deal with, was drilled down the center and shattered into several pieces. Then the 2 of them continued to drill the larger ores with a magic drill, turning all the ores into rocks in the end. The entire process only took a little more than 10 minutes. Hearing Chairman Morgan's sigh of surprise, Su Yi revealed a faint smile. How about it? Chairman Morgan, are you satisfied with this magic drilling machine? Of course. Chairman Morgan suddenly stopped talking and looked at Su Yi. He put away the excited and shocked expression on his face and gave a soft cough before saying in a slow voice, This thing is indeed not bad. But Chairman Su, your new flyer doesn't seem to be using it, right? What did you research this thing for? Our Frestec Chamber of Commerce sells magic machines to begin with. All right, how much are you planning on selling this thing for? Chairman Morgan asked. I don't have a price yet. But since Chairman Morgan is asking, all right, since we're old friends, I'll give you a discount. It'll be a round number 100 gold coins for one. What do you think? Su Yi said. 100 gold coins for one? Chairman Morgan's eyes opened wide as he looked at Su Yi in disbelief. Why don't you just steal it? Seeing Chairman Morgan's angry look, Su Yi innocently blinked his eyes and revealed an aggrieved look. Chairman Morgan, this is a very fair price. Are you still not satisfied? Fair my ass. Chairman Morgan held himself back and didn't blurt out any vulgarities. After desperately taking a few deep breaths, he calmed down and said in a deep voice, Chairman Su, stop joking. Give me a real price, and if I'm satisfied, I'll order a few from you. Su Yi revealed an awkward look. After thinking for a while, he said with a sigh, All right, based on Chairman Morgan, I'll give you a bit. What do you think about 95 gold coins for one? Chairman Morgan looked at Sue E and was too lazy to be angry. He coldly said, 50 gold coins for one. Don't even think about it. Sue E shook his head. Chairman Morgan, I can't accept this price. If you really want it, then I'll give you a real price. 90 gold coins for one. I can't go any lower. Humph, the cost of this machine to me is less than 20 gold coins. You dare say 90 gold coins for one? You're too black-hearted. 55 gold coins, it's this price. You also have to look at how much effort our company has spent to develop it. All right, the lowest is 88 gold coins. After bargaining, the final price was set at 78 gold coins for one. Chairman Morgan wasn't satisfied with this price, but he couldn't do anything about it. After personally witnessing the might of this magic drill, he had to admit that if he had the help of this machine, his mining efficiency would increase by quite a bit. How could he miss this opportunity? So he naturally couldn't insist on the price. Although he looked like he had suffered a large loss, he was actually filled with joy in his heart. The cost of the materials for this magic drill was only a trivial 5 gold coins. Although the research cost was very high, as long as enough units were sold, the research cost would gradually decrease until it was completely negligible. So even with the most rigorous calculation, if they sold it at this price, they could earn a net profit of over 60 gold coins for a single new flyer. Moreover, although Chairman Morgan had only ordered 100 units from Sui at first, he had also said that if he felt it was good after using it, he would continue to order in large quantities. Sui was very confident in this. The technology of the Science Continent was backwards, so mining was done by hand. How could this method compare to mechanized work? As long as the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce tried the large increase in efficiency brought by the magic drill, they wouldn't be able to break free from it. After preliminary discussion, according to convention, the two of them should have a meal together to get to know each other. But Chairman Morgan didn't have a good impression of Sue E, so he didn't mention this matter at all. As for Sue E, he had something else to do, so he didn't mention it at all. So the two of them bid farewell, and Sue E went to the horse carriage company in Bandit City. What he needed to do was to come here to welcome a group of special guests. Chapter 144. Compared to the many forms of transportation on Earth, the signs only had horse carriages, so it was much worse. But compared to the other horse carriage companies, the Lampari Kingdom's largest horse carriage company, the Furson Horse Carriage Company, was normally quite punctual. Sui arrived at the horse carriage company a bit later than scheduled and saw Akali jump out of the horse carriage that had just arrived. When she jumped out and looked up to see Sui, Akali excitedly charged over. Sir Chairman, I'm back. Seeing Akali's excited appearance, Sui couldn't help smiling. This little girl had been in a bad mood a few days ago, but now that she had come home for the New Year's, she seemed to have returned to normal. Sui was happy to see this. For a lively little girl like Akali, once she was in a bad mood, it made people feel that it was a pity. Welcome back. Sui replied with a smile. His eyes looked past Akali to the two horse carriages behind her and nodded to Evita, who came out behind Akali. Then he looked over the 2 men and 3 women beside Evita, a total of 5 people around the same age as Evita. If his guesses weren't wrong, these 5 should be the 5 classmates Akali mentioned in her letter last time. As expected, seeing Sui's eyes fall onto the 5 of them, Akali excitedly introduced them to Sui. Sir Chairman, they're the 5 classmates I mentioned. What do you think of them? Sui couldn't help laughing. Akali, I want to recruit magicians. Could it be that you want me to judge their magic power just by looking at their appearance? After saying this, he reached his hand out to the 5 of them with a smile. Fellow classmates, welcome to Bandit City. I am the new Flyers chairman, Sui. The 5 youths shook hands with Sui while sizing him up without any scruples. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. When it was the turn of a tall girl with natural black curly hair, she suddenly said with a faint smile, Sir Chairman, although Akali always told us that you were young and handsome, we never believed it. Because we always felt that to be the chairman of a company, You should be an uncle. I never thought that after seeing you, I would find that you are even younger than I imagined. Sir Chairman, you shouldn't be that much older than us, right? Sue, you revealed a faint smile. You aren't the first to be curious or have doubts about my age. I'm 28 this year. Compared to you all, I can indeed be considered an uncle. At least Steele calls me uncle. Steele. The three girls looked at each other with a bit of surprise. Another girl who was a bit short and a bit fat suddenly asked in a mysterious voice, Sir Chairman, I've heard a colleague say that Steele has a very good relationship with you. Could it be that? You already have that kind of relationship? Without waiting for Su Yi's reply, the boy who had introduced himself as Shock suddenly gave a soft snort. Bella, don't speak nonsense. Steele wasn't interested in boys when she was in school. How could she suddenly have something with Chairman Su? Bella rolled her eyes at Shock and said without any politeness, Chairman Su isn't a little boy like you. It isn't strange that Steele likes him. Let me tell you, Chairman Su is so young and handsome, and he is the chairman of a large company. I would also like him if it was me, don't you think? Sir Chairman? Su, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he waved his hand. Young Miss Bella, don't joke with me. Other than that, Steele and I don't have the kind of relationship you think we have. It's just that I have a good relationship with Steele's grandfather, great magician Camilla. Adding in the fact that Steele works for our company, we normally interact with each other, so our relationship isn't bad. Hypocrite. A collie on the side suddenly gave a soft snort as she muttered this. Su looked at her and didn't keep asking. He turned to call the others to another horse carriage that had already been prepared. They first had the horse carriage bring them around Banta City to familiarize themselves with the environment. They also went to the new Flyer Service Center in Banta City to take a look. After seeing the various magic machines in the service center, the students couldn't help revealing looks of surprise, especially when they saw the magic lamps. Not only did the three girls reveal wild joy, even the two boys revealed looks of praise that they couldn't hide. After touring the city, the horse carriage brought them to the factories outside. Seeing the three workshops in the open space, the youths were clearly disappointed. Bella seemed like someone who couldn't hide her thoughts. Looking at the shabby factories other than the new one, she couldn't help saying to Su, Sir Chairman, this wouldn't be all the factories of your new flyer, right? This is too small. It can't even compare to the factories of the companies we've seen before. Shock also revealed a look of disdain as he said with a snort, That's right, the factory is this small. It seems like your new flyer isn't that great. It's fine if a collie likes to boast, but Evita, you've never liked to boast. Why did you lie to us like a collie, saying that the new flyer is a very good company and that there's a good future if we work here? Evita had a gentle personality, so being stabbed by Shock like this, her face instantly turned red, but she didn't know how to refute him. A collie reprimanded without any politeness. What do you know? Don't look at how this factory isn't big, but do you know how many kinds of magic machines our company made before the largest workshop was open last year? If you go to Banta City to take a look, I guarantee that you'll see our new flyers things in every store. Let me tell you, the new flyer has only been established for less than half a year, and it's already this strong. You dare say that there's no future if we work here? Humph. You're not embarrassed to talk about me and Evita. The two of us only worked here for a few months last year, and we earned over 100 gold coins. What about you? You don't do anything at home and only know how to rely on your parents. So embarrassing. Everyone was dumbfounded. Although Shock had actually said that the new flyer had no future in front of Su, and his tone was a bit sharp. No one would have thought that a collie's reaction would be this intense. She didn't leave any face for Shock at all. Shock's face turned green and white. His expression changed several times before he suddenly gave a strong snort and angrily said, Akali, I came here because of you and Evita, but I never thought that you would think of me like this. All right, since you like this broken company that much, you can keep working here. I don't like this small company with no future. Let me tell you, there are several large companies in Anvilmar City that have invited me, but I didn't agree. For a magic genius like me, even if I'm forced to work for a company, I should work for a large company like the Chimera Chamber of Commerce. I wouldn't work for a small company with no future with such a shabby factory. Seeing that Shock was about to angrily leave, he slightly knit his brows and moved in front of him to block him. What? Chairman Sue, you don't allow people to leave after coming here? Shock angrily said to Sui. He faintly smiled and shook his head. No, we aren't a bandit's nest here. Of course you can come and go as you wish. But classmate Shock, if I were you, I wouldn't choose to leave at this time. Because if you leave like this, wouldn't it mean that you can't refute Akali's words and that she is right? It's not like that. Shock was furious. He looked at Akali and wanted to reprimand her, but he felt that it was too shameful to argue with a girl, so he could only snort and turn his head away. Seeing the situation, he was not nervous at all and almost laughed out loud. These fellows were indeed young. Classmate Shock, I won't object if you want to leave, but I don't agree with your evaluation of our new flyer. In my hometown, there's a saying that you don't have the right to speak without investigation. You don't have any understanding of our new flyer, yet you are certain that our company has no future. This conclusion is too rash. He said, although our Frestec Chamber of Commerce only has this factory right now, I can tell you some data. You and the other students can listen to it. Hearing this, the 5 youths couldn't help but focus their attention on Sui. The first number is our new flyer's total revenue for the past half year, which is 203,494 gold coins. The 5 youths exclaimed at the same time. Even Evita and Akali couldn't help but reveal shocked expressions because it was the first time they had heard such detailed numbers. For these youths from ordinary families, 200,000 gold coins was something they could never come into contact with. It was a huge number that they couldn't even imagine. And this young Chairman Sue's new flyer had sold so many valuable products in half a year. Sir Chairman, can you tell us how much money you've earned? Cecilia, who had been relatively silent among the 3 girls, finally spoke up. He smiled and nodded. That's the right question. For a company, the important thing isn't how much it sells, but how much it earns. And this is the second number I want to tell you. In the past half year, our new flyer's total profit exceeded 140,000 gold coins. Everyone was shocked once again. According to what Sui said, new flyer's profit margin was a bit too high. These 2 numbers are just to tell you that although our new flyer can't be considered a large company right now, it definitely isn't a company without a future. Rather, our new flyer's prospects are very good. After a while, we will be opening a new factory in the neighboring Karma City. And within this year, we might even be building a new production base outside Banda City. According to the plan, the area of this new production base will even surpass Banda City. Do you think that if it was a small company without a future, would they be able to make such a large plan? Surpass Banta City? Akali looked at Sui in surprise and couldn't help saying, Sir Chairman, I've found that you're even better at bragging than me. Sui laughed. Whether I'm bragging or not, you'll know in the future. Of course, to you, our new flyer's plan doesn't have much meaning. I think that what you care about is your own income. Take Akali as an example. She and Evita came to work for our new flyer last August, and they've been working for less than 5 months now. Their income added together is like what Akali said, it's already over 100 gold coins. And this is based on the fact that their base wage last year was only 15 gold coins. Starting this year, the 2 of them have been promoted to second-grade researchers, and their monthly wage has increased from 15 gold coins to 25 gold coins. 25 gold coins. Bella said in a surprised voice. This isn't considered low even in Anvil Mars City. This is just a basic wage. Sui said with a smile. Other than this, every time you develop a new magic machine or improve an existing magic machine, the company will give you an extra cash reward. The reward amount isn't set, but the lowest is 20 gold coins and the highest has no upper limit. With our company's support for developing new products, we can often receive these rewards. Last year, Akali and I received 70 gold coins just from the rewards. Evita added in at the right time. Akali pursed her lips and said in an unconvinced voice, This is because we aren't strong enough. Otherwise, we could have received even more. Look at great magician Camilla. He received over 1,000 gold coins just because he worked with our company. He's much stronger than us." Everyone couldn't help rolling their eyes at her. Great magician Camilla was a great magician. How could you compare to him? But from the words of Sue, Akali, and Evita, the five youths could tell that if they stayed in New Flyer, they would have a lot of money. Seeing the light in the eyes of the five youths, and even shock calming down to seriously consider this, Sue, couldn't help revealing a smile. "I'm not afraid that you won't be moved. As long as you're moved, everything will be easy." Chapter 145. For these five people who had just graduated from the Magic Academy and had just stepped into society, they were eager to prove themselves. Therefore, it was necessary for them to obtain a decent job with high returns. Not only was it decent to do magic machine research in New Flyer, the salary was also quite good. The only downside was that New Flyer wasn't a large company and wasn't very famous. But for these five people who weren't considered magical geniuses, this condition was more than enough. Thus, after 2 days of inspection, these five young people all signed employment contracts with New Flyer and became first-level researchers of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. Just like when Evita and Akali first entered New Flyer, the five of them could only get a basic salary of 15 gold coins a month. But according to the rules, after half a year of work, as long as there weren't any problems, they would naturally be promoted to second-level researchers. At that time, they would receive a second-level researcher salary of 25 gold coins. For these five young people, perhaps this was just a simple job choice that wasn't complicated or difficult. But for Sue, and New Flyer, the addition of these five young people had a very important meaning. Before these five people, in the current Magic Academy of New Flyer, the only official researchers were Steel, Evita, Akali, Wella, and Sanchely, who was only focused on magic array programming and didn't participate in design research. Even with Sue, the research force was very weak. So Sue had no choice but to give a lot of research to great magician Camilla's magic tower. This situation was clearly not suitable. Not to mention that in order to get Carmilla's magic tower to help with the research, New Flyer had to invest a large amount of money. Just the fact that they didn't have their own research force made it so that New Flyer couldn't be considered a large and healthy company. This was why Sue needed a large number of mages to join. Even though the five of them were still young, and the strongest among them was only a fourth-tier magician, they represented that New Flyer could finally rely on their own conditions to attract magicians to join them. This represented a beginning. In the future, as New Flyer grew stronger, more and more powerful magicians would join them. Of course, it was also necessary to nurture a powerful mage of his own. For this reason, Sue allocated an extra 500 gold coins from the Chamber of Commerce to the Academy of Magic to support Evita and Akali in their own magic research to increase their magic power. In fact, in order to increase a magician's strength, not only did they need a great deal of magic talent, they also needed a lot of money. This was because the research of every spell required a large amount of magical materials. Without financial support, it was basically impossible for a mage to master a brand new spell with their own talent. So every powerful magician in the signs had a large amount of financial support behind them. Even a poor great magician like Great Magician Camilla had to rely on the support of the Sorcerer's Guild and the Lampari Kingdom. Correspondingly, if a magician had enough money to research magic, and they also had decent talent for magic, it was natural for them to increase their strength. When Evita and Akali first came to New Flyer, they were only between the 3rd and 4th grade magicians. Now that they had worked in New Flyer for half a year, even if they spent most of their time researching magic machines, with Suyi's financial support, the two of them could also research magic while researching magic arrays. This allowed their strength to increase by leaps and bounds, and now they had both broken through the boundary of the 4th grade magician. Evita could even grasp a small part of the 5th grade magicians and was only a step away from becoming a true 5th grade magician. The reason why those 5 young people were interested in New Flyer and signed contracts was also very important. Compared to Evita and Akali, It was Steele who had the highest talent and the strongest magic power that didn't increase that much in half a year. As for the reason, it was because she was busy with other things. Suit E. The Serene Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Rank sent someone to find me today. He wants me to do an advertisement for the Serene Chamber of Commerce. Do you think I should go or not? Steele's slender brows slightly knit as she asked Sue E. in a slightly worried voice. I've already rejected him several times, but he keeps sending people to find me. It really is troublesome. Sue looked at her and said with a smile, "That depends on if you're willing to go or not. Why are you asking me?" Steele rolled her eyes at Sue E. and said with a soft snort, "I am the spokesperson for New Flyer. Do you think there's a problem with me doing an advertisement for another company? What's wrong with that?" Sue E. shrugged nonchalantly. The Serene Chamber of Commerce deals in luxury goods. It has nothing to do with our New Flyer's products. If you do an advertisement for their company, it won't affect New Flyer at all. If you ask me, Chairman Rank really has sharp eyes. Steele, you're so beautiful and elegant. You'd be a perfect match for the Serene Chamber of Commerce's jewelry. Steele immediately smiled. Is that so? You also think I'd be a good match for those jewelry? Seeing the light in Steele's eyes, Sui couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It seemed that no matter if it was earth or signs, girls, especially beautiful girls, had no resistance to beautiful jewelry. Of course, Sui nodded with certainty. But if you want me to tell you the truth, no matter how beautiful those jewelry are, it can't compare to your beauty, Steele. You're a dazzling piece of jewelry yourself. Why would you want to wear those miscellaneous things to ruin your overall beauty? Steele burst into laughter and blinked her beautiful eyes. She looked at Sue E. with an amused expression and said, "Sue E., you're actually telling me that you've never dated a girl before? I don't believe you. Why wouldn't you believe me? Why would I lie to you about something like this?" Sue E. said with an innocent expression, "Because your flowery words are so nice, and they don't sound awkward at all. You must have used them to trick girls before. How could you not have dated a girl before?" Sue E. rolled his eyes and said in an exasperated manner, "I'm just speaking from the bottom of my heart. To be honest, I really don't like girls wearing jewelry, especially girls who are beautiful enough to wear jewelry. That's because I truly feel that beautiful girls are a special scenery in and of themselves. It would be tacky to wear jewelry as embellishments. Steele, you're as beautiful as a flower blooming in the sun. Why would you wear jewelry to ruin this beautiful scenery?" Steele didn't laugh this time. Instead, she blushed and said softly, "I didn't say that I had to wear jewelry. To be honest, I don't like wearing those things. It's very troublesome." After a pause, she said to Sue, "Since you don't like me wearing jewelry, then I'll go and decline president rank." "Don't. That's just my personal opinion. Don't be too affected by it." Sue hurriedly stopped her. "Taking an advertisement for the Serene Chamber of Commerce can make you a bit more famous, and it'll be good for our Frestec Chamber of Commerce if you become more famous. When the time comes, it'll be even better if you advertise for our Frestec Chamber of Commerce. Then do you want me to go or not?" Steele waited for Sue E. to ask. "Well, can I ask how much President Rank is going to pay you?" Steele stretched out a finger. 100 gold coins? That's too cheap. I'm not going. I'm definitely not going." Sue E. immediately shook his head. Steele snorted softly and said with a bit of pride, "It's not 100 gold coins. It's 1,000 gold coins." 1,000 gold coins? Sue E. was speechless. After a while, he couldn't help but shake his head and sigh. The Serene Chamber of Commerce is indeed in the luxury business. They're so generous. Steele, what do you think your grandfather would think if he knew that you only shot an advertisement for the Serene Chamber of Commerce and made as much money as he received from the royal family in a year? Steele stuck out her tongue and said playfully, "That's why I didn't tell him about this at all." Sue laughed. "That's good too. It's better not to provoke him too much. But speaking of remuneration, compared to President Rank's generous offer, it seems that the remuneration our New Flyer is giving you is a bit too low. Giving you only 50 gold coins for each advertisement, it really is a bit hard to accept. How about this, Steele? Give me a price. As long as it isn't an exaggeration of 1,000 gold coins, I as the chairman will agree to it. No matter what, you are a big star of our Banna City. Your price can't be too low. Steele rolled her eyes at Sue E. and snappily said, "Get it clear, I'm helping you advertise, not helping New Flyer advertise. If it wasn't for you mentioning the company's accounts, I wouldn't have taken a single copper coin. Now that you're talking about remuneration, all right, I won't ask for 1,000 gold coins. I'll just ask for 999 gold coins. Will you give me that?" Sue E. looked at Steele's little white hand and couldn't help teasing her. "This expensive. I can't afford it. How about I give myself to you as payment? What do you think?" Steele's face turned red again. She looked at Sue E. for a while before saying through gritted teeth, "All right, you have to give it to me." Sue E. was stunned. Looking at Steele's beautiful face with a bit of shyness under the magic lamp, and seeing Steele's expectant gaze with a bit of nervousness, he was stunned for a while. The two looked at each other, and although they both felt very awkward, neither of them was willing to look away. It was like looking at each other. Both of them wanted to come to a conclusion. After being in a daze for an unknown amount of time, Sue E. slowly opened his mouth and softly said 2 words. "All right." Chapter 146. The rare warm winter sun released a warm sunlight that wasn't dazzling. Steele was standing on the grass with her head slightly raised. Facing the sunlight, her left hand stroked the golden hair by her ear as she revealed a dazzling smile. When the sunlight fell onto her face, it made her white and delicate skin look even more crystal clear, as if it could be broken with a single blow. Her long golden hair reflected rays of light, bathing her entire body in a faint golden light, adding a sense of holiness to her. Chairman Rank, not far away, couldn't help praising, "Young Miss Steele really is our Banta City's goddess. These jewels can only release such a dazzling glow when worn by her. Don't you think so, Chairman Sue?" Sue E. revealed a faint smile. "Chairman Rank, you mean that these jewels can't be worn by the noble madams and young misses of Banta City? If they hear this, your Serene Chamber of Commerce will suffer a large loss." Chairman Rank laughed. "This is just my sincere praise for young Miss Steele. I believe that those noble madams and young misses won't care about these details." Although he said this, Chairman Rank immediately changed the topic and asked Sue E. "Chairman Sue, I have to thank you for this. If it wasn't for you persuading her, young Miss Steele wouldn't have agreed to help our company with this advertisement." "I didn't say anything. If you want to talk about moving Steele, it has to be the sky-high reward of 1,000 gold coins." After saying this, Sue E. looked at Chairman Rank with a gaze of deep meaning and asked, "Chairman Rank, taking out such a large sum at once, is it really because you like Steele's charm and don't have any other intentions?" Chairman Rank shook his head. "Chairman Sue, I think that you're underestimating young Miss Steele's charm too much. Even if we don't mention young Miss Steele being a 5th-grade magician and the fact that she's the granddaughter of great magician Camilla, just young Miss Steele herself is enough for me to give her such a high reward. Look at how dazzling young Miss Steele is wearing these jewels. If you were a normal girl and saw this scene, you would definitely want to buy these jewels and become as dazzling as her." Sue E. looked at Steele in the distance. Although the current Steele was dazzling and filled with charm, how was this related to the jewels she was wearing? This was completely because of Steele herself. But looking at Chairman Rank, who had a fanatical look on his face, Sue E. decided to suppress these words in his heart. After a while, Chairman Rank gave a soft cough and revealed an embarrassed smile to Sue. "Sorry, speaking of jewelry, I couldn't control myself." Sue E. gave an understanding smile. "When it comes to magic machines, I'm the same." Chairman Rank revealed a faint smile. "Since Chairman Sue is more interested in magic machines, then let's talk about magic machines. Chairman Sue, I've heard that your new flyer has been helping the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce develop some magic machines." Sue E. looked at him in surprise. It wasn't strange that Chairman Rank knew about this, but why did he suddenly care about this? "That's right," Sue E. said with a nod, "but the actual situation is that I took the initiative to find Chairman Cruz and Chairman Morgan to sell them the magic machines we developed. Then I was lucky enough to receive their approval. Lucky? Chairman Rank said with a faint smile. I'm afraid it wasn't lucky. Chairman Su, your eyes have always been very accurate. The magic machines you sold to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce and the Fulcao Chamber of Commerce were what they needed. So it would be strange if Chairman Cruz and Chairman Morgan didn't approve. Chairman Rank, you think too highly of me. It really was a lucky thing. So he waved his hand as he said this. All right, whether it was a lucky thing or not, this at least proves that your new flyer has the ability to develop magic machines according to the needs of other companies. Am I right, Chairman Su? Chairman Rank asked. Su-yi looked at Chairman Rank in surprise before giving a slight nod. Although it isn't completely correct, it's generally correct. What? Chairman Rank, could it be that your Serene Chamber of Commerce needs our help to develop some magic machines? That's right. Chairman Rank nodded with a smile. He raised his hand, and the followers standing behind him took out a stack of paper. Su-yi took it and found that it was several blueprints. There were several machines drawn on it, while also marking out some requirements. Chairman Su, these are the blueprints that we made based on our own requirements. You can take them for reference. Of course, the things that we figured out won't be as professional as the magic machines that your new flyer developed. So this is only a reference and can't be considered confirmation. Su-yi nodded and seriously looked over the blueprints for a bit. He was surprised to find that although the small magic machines drawn on the blueprints weren't as professional as the magic machines that new flyer designed, based on these blueprints, he could see some mechanical theory. Adding in the request for the magic machines on the side, the magic machines on the blueprint could already be considered enough. With these professional blueprints, as long as they did some research, perhaps the Serang Chamber of Commerce could develop these magic machines themselves. Our Serang Chamber of Commerce isn't in charge of developing magic machines. Chairman Su, we found some magicians and craftsmen who were interested in magic machines to draw these blueprints. What do you think? Chairman Rank asked. Magicians and craftsmen who are interested in magic machines? Su-yi narrowed his eyes as he looked at Chairman Rank. It seemed like there were finally people who recognized the importance of magic machines and were considering developing them themselves. Compared to the clumsy imitation of the Leo Chamber of Commerce, these blueprints already reflected the thoughts of the magicians and craftsmen responsible for developing them. Although the magic machines developed by New Flyer were much more immature, this at least meant that they were entering the magic machine industry and were truly researching it. He was pleasantly surprised by this. He was surprised that there were people other than New Flyer that were entering the magic machine industry this quickly. At this time, New Flyer hadn't established a large enough lead yet, so if they stopped, they would be quickly caught up. He was happy that there were finally people who were truly researching the magic machine industry. On the continent, there wasn't just New Flyer that was researching it. If there were more people and companies like this, it would speed up the development of the magic machine industry on the signs. It would be even more important for Su Yi's dream of establishing an industrial system. With all kinds of thoughts in his mind, Su Yi looked at the blueprints in his hand and asked Chairman Rank, "Can I ask, who are the magicians and craftsmen that made these blueprints?" Chairman Rank shook his head with a faint smile. "They were casually found by us. Chairman Su wouldn't know their names, even if I said their names." Chairman Rank's answer was within Su Yi's expectations. He thought about it before saying, "All right, I will bring these blueprints back and try to develop a magic machine based on the requirements on these blueprints as soon as possible. Other than that, Chairman Rank, I'll have to trouble you to pass on a message to the magicians and craftsmen that made these blueprints. Just tell them that if there is anything they don't understand about developing magic machines, they can directly ask me. I am not stingy on this, and will definitely teach them everything I know, so they don't need to beat around the bush like this." Chairman Rank's expression changed a bit before he revealed a smile and said with a nod, "All right, I will pass on your message to them." Su-yi put the blueprints in his chest and stood up to walk over to Steele, who had finished her modeling. Seeing Su-yi come over, Steele first revealed a bright smile before her face turned a bit red. She lowered her head, as if she didn't dare look into Su Yi's eyes. Seeing Steele's reaction, Sui also felt his face turn a bit hot. Since he didn't know why he had said, "All right," that day, the atmosphere between Sue, and Steele had become strange. In the following days, the two of them had become very awkward every time they met. Steele, who had always been open, would blush, and Sue, he had become much more stiff in front of her. The two of them suddenly didn't know how to interact with each other. Seeing Steele, who had her head lowered like she didn't know what to do, Sue, he took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Then he said with a smile, "Steele, it's been hard on you." Steele looked up at Sue, and revealed a somewhat awkward smile. "No, it's not hard." After saying that, she lowered her head again. Seeing Steele's strange appearance, Sue, thought of the awkward interactions between the two of them these days. Suddenly, an impulse surged in his chest. He strode forward and grabbed Steele's hand. Steele looked up at Sue, in shock, then looked at her hand that was being held by Sue. Her face turned red, and she tried to pull her hand away, but because Sue Yi's grip was too strong, she couldn't move it at all. "President Rank, if there's nothing else, Steele and I will take our leave first." Sue raised his other hand and said to President Rank in a loud voice. President Rank's gaze swept past the two of them, holding hands, and a deep smile appeared on his face. He nodded slightly and said, "Okay, I won't delay the two of you. Chairman Sue and Miss Steele, take care." Sue used a bit of force, and Steele obediently followed behind him and left the Serene Chamber of Commerce. Chapter 147. "Hey kid, when are you planning on marrying Steele?" Great Magician Camilla suddenly looked at Sue, and asked this. "Who?" Sue, spat out the mouthful of tea he was drinking. After forcefully coughing a few times, he looked at Great Magician Camilla in surprise and said, "Your Excellency, Great Magician, what are you saying?" Great Magician Camilla gave a strong snort. "What? Is there a problem with my question? Kid, since you're already in a relationship with Steele, shouldn't I be asking when you're getting married? Or are you just planning on playing with Steele and not planning on marrying her? Let me tell you, kid, any relationship that isn't about marriage is a hoodlum. If you dare treat Steele like this, do you believe that I won't break your legs?" Seeing Great Magician Camilla's angry face, Sue, didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he replied, "I say, Your Excellency, Great Magician, I've only just confirmed my relationship with Steele. Shouldn't we understand each other a bit more before considering marriage?" "Understand what?" "You two have been together for half a year, working together all day and sticking together when you have nothing to do. Steele has even stayed at your house for several nights. Isn't that enough?" Great Magician Camilla said in a cold voice. "Kid, stop wasting words. I'm asking you this as Steele's grandfather. You better answer me honestly." Seeing that Great Magician Camilla wasn't joking, Sue thought about it. He put away the helpless expression on his face and said with a serious expression, "Your Excellency, Great Magician, Steele is a very outstanding girl, whether it is her appearance or personality. So of course I hope that she can become my wife as soon as possible. However, I have to respect Steele's wishes. If she doesn't feel that we're suitable, I won't force her to marry me." Great Magician Camilla knit his brows. "What? Steele isn't satisfied with you?" Sue, said with a bitter smile, "You can't say it like that. I can only say that she definitely won't prepare to get married this quickly. Just let us spend some more time together. When the time is right, we will naturally think of this matter. But before that, I hope you won't put too much pressure on her." Great Magician Camilla was silent for a bit before giving a sigh. He waved his hand and said, "Forget it. This is a matter between you young people. I don't care that much. All right, kid, let's get down to business. Come, take a look at the Union's journal that arrived today." Taking the internal journal of the Sorcerer's Guild that Great Magician Camilla threw over, Sue, saw the large words on the cover and was instantly stunned. Is magic research selfish? Usually, the cover of the Sorcerer's Guild's internal journal represented the hottest topic in the Sorcerer's Guild. Usually, it was related to magic research. However, the title of this issue also seemed to be related to magic research, but it revealed a strong sense of debate in the humanities. What is going on? Sui looked at great magician Camilla in a daze. See for yourself. Oh, that's right. I suggest you look at the 7th page first. Sui turned to the 7th page and found that the title of this page was even more shocking. Magic research is a magician's private property. It can't be taken lightly. Seeing such an explosive title, Sui's eyes couldn't help looking at the author's name, and he saw a familiar name. Gordon Eisenkel. Seeing this name, Sui couldn't help secretly nodding. If it was this greedy, great magician, it wouldn't be strange for him to say this. Continuing to read, he found that the content of the article was not weaker than the title. Great magician Eisenkel kept talking about the large harm that sharing magic research brought to magicians, causing magicians to gradually lose the motivation to research new spells. This was because even if they did research it, it would be easily learned by other magicians. Magicians are also humans, and humans are animals that chase after benefits. If there aren't enough benefits, why would magicians spend so much effort to research new spells? The entire article should be reasonable and convincing, but what surprised Sui was that in the latter half of the article, great magician Eisenkel actually used New Flyer and Sui as examples. He praised Sui and New Flyer, saying that Sui's magic machines had pointed out a new path for magicians, proving that the use of magic in daily life was just as important and had a strong meaning. But if Sui's magic machines were not protected and anyone could copy them, then Sui and New Flyer would lose the motivation to research new magic machines. Sui shook his head. Every time there is a dawn, it will be cut short because of the selfless sharing promoted by the guild. In the long run, the magicians of the science continent will stop moving forward and the magic level of the continent will never increase. Could it be that at this point, we still shouldn't make a change? At the end of the article, great magician Eisenkel's words couldn't help being a bit alarmist. Sui didn't think that the magicians of the signs wouldn't be able to increase their level. In the past several thousand years, although the magicians of the signs weren't as strong as they were during the race wars, they were still researching magic, so it was impossible for there to be no progress. After reading this article, he flipped through the other parts of the journal and found that many great mages had published articles in the journal to debate this issue. What's happening all of a sudden? Sui closed the journal and asked great magician Camilla in a confused voice. It's very simple. It's because the Union is preparing to pass a new resolution. They want the magicians of the Union to make a breakthrough in their magic research and share it with the other magicians, increasing the magic level of the signs together. Great magician Camilla replied, "Damn, are the people of the Sorcerers Guild? Are they idiots?" Sui paused and finally couldn't help cursing. Letting everyone share for free, it would be strange if anyone would do it. If we really pass this resolution, then it will definitely become a situation where all the magicians will not conduct magic research, and everyone will just wait to pick up ready-made magic. If it was before, I would have scolded you for being too selfish and not understanding the spirit of sacrifice. But now, great magician Camilla revealed a bitter smile. I have to admit, there are times when being selfish isn't a bad thing. If you share the results of a New Flyer's research, I'm afraid your company will instantly fall, and I won't be able to obtain that much research funds from your company. So you're also against this resolution? Sui immediately asked. Yes, not only am I against it, Eisenkel is also against it. Actually, most of the great magicians are against it. Great magician Camilla smiled at Sui and said, "So this resolution shouldn't pass. Kid, you don't need to worry about the Union forcing you to share your research results. Of course, it would be strange if this kind of brainless resolution passed," Sui said with a laugh. Other than this, for this resolution, Eisenkel has proposed a resolution to the Union regarding the exclusive rights of the magician's research results. To be specific, it's a bit similar to the patent you mentioned last time. Right now, this resolution is being discussed, and it's unknown if it will pass or not. But because of the storm caused by the previous resolution, there are many voices calling for this resolution to pass. Sui's eyes lit up, This great magician, Eisenkel, really knows how to seize opportunities. But why does he want the patent for the magician's research so much? Moreover, why did he use me as an example and not even let off our new flyer? Great magician Camilla looked at Sue E with a strange expression. Kid, being reminded by you, I suddenly found that you're very similar to that fellow Eisenkel. Compared to magicians, you're more like merchants. ####, when it was unknown if the Sorcerers Guild's resolution on the exclusive rights to magic research would pass or not, 70 brought Sue E some bad news. The Lampari Kingdom's parliament had rejected the proposal for the patent. Why? Sue E looked at 70 with a frown. By passing the patent, the companies that apply for the patent would have to pay a set amount of patent protection fees each year, which would increase the kingdom's revenue. Why did the parliament reject it? It's very simple. It's because behind the parliament are the large nobles of the kingdom, and under the large nobles, there are large companies. 70 replied. Then I don't understand even more. This patent protection law is aimed at all the companies in the kingdom. Could it be that these companies don't have their own unique technology and don't need patent protection? Sue E said in a confused voice. 70 took a deep look at Sue E before giving a sigh. Chairman Sue, if I told you that rejecting this proposal was aimed at your new flyer, would you believe it? Sue E looked at 70 in surprise, and after being stunned for a bit, he shook his head. I don't believe it. Our new flyer is only a small company with a few 100,000 gold coins a year. Is there a need for those large characters to target us? No. Chairman Sue, you're looking down on yourself and new flyer too much. Since you signed the order for those tens of thousands of small agricultural magic machines with the agricultural department, the Frestech Chamber of Commerce is no longer a small company. 70 said with a serious look. 70 said with a serious look, I think that you should know that before this, His Majesty had our agriculture department announce our cooperation plan with your new flyer. Now everyone in the kingdom knows about your company, and they know that your company has earned several million gold coins just by developing some agricultural magic machines. So there were many people whose eyes were red and they wanted to join the magic machine industry. Do you think that at this time, they will let this patent law stop them? Sue E was stunned before letting out a long sigh with a helpless look. The agriculture department announcing their cooperation plan with a new flyer was something that they had discussed with him ahead of time. Sue E didn't oppose this at that time because this would greatly increase the fame of the new flyer. But he never would have thought that just by announcing this cooperation, it would attract the attention of the large nobles behind the large companies of the Lampari Kingdom. After the new flyer became the target of attention, of course there would be people who found that the magic machine industry had endless potential and large profits. It wasn't strange that these people wanted to enter this industry. No wonder Chairman Rank suddenly took out those blueprints, so the Serene Chamber of Commerce already had this idea. I wonder how far the other chambers of commerce have progressed. Sue E thought for a bit before saying to 70. This means that it is already impossible for our new flyer to develop slowly in Bandit City from now on. Yes. 70 nodded. 70 nodded. Chairman Sue, I think I have to remind you of something. Compared to those large companies, your new flyer is still very small and weak. If you're not careful, it's very likely that you'll be swallowed by them. Sue E nodded as he revealed a cold smile filled with endless ridicule. That's good. I'll have to face this competition sooner or later. Although it's a bit early, since I'm here, I'll properly take it. These fellows want to swallow our new flyer like a little fish, but have they ever thought that this little fish can swim faster than them, and they can't catch it at all? Chapter 148. In the Lampari Kingdom that was southwest of the Center of Signs, spring came earlier than most Signs countries. In the middle of March, the south wind blew, blowing away the snow on the ground. There were even a few sprouts sprouting out of the fresh soil, embellishing the barren and monotonous ground with a few moving spots of emerald green. Sue E looked at the dazzling green outside the office window, and after being in a daze, his eyes turned to the map of the kingdom on the wall. To the west of Bandit City, Other than the red that represented where the New Flyer's factory was, there was a large patch of light red to the west, which meant that this area would be under New Flyer's name. Of course, 70 didn't only bring bad news. For example, when New Flyer spent 2 months to finish the first batch of agricultural magic machines, 70 immediately brought good news to Sui. It was that after careful consideration, the king had agreed to Su Yi's request to rent royal land. Moreover, contrary to Su Yi's expectations, the king was even more generous than Su Yi had imagined. Su Yi had only tentatively wanted to rent a square kilometer of land, but the king had increased it by 10 times. He agreed to rent a large piece of land of 10 square kilometers to New Flyer. Moreover, the rent the king gave was much cheaper than Su Yi had imagined. At first, Su Yi wanted to rent a square kilometer of land and pay at least 5,000 gold coins a year, but after the king agreed to rent 10 square kilometers of land, the rent he gave was only 30,000 gold coins a year. According to purchasing power, 30,000 gold coins a year was around 3 million RMB. If any company in the Celestial Empire on Earth knew that they could rent 10 square kilometers of land by spending only 3 million renminbi a year, they would definitely faint from joy. Of course, the rent was cheap, which meant that the location wasn't that good. Although the king had Su Yi choose a piece of land near Banda City, he requested that it be at least 10 kilometers away from Banda City. Normally speaking, because this place was too far from Banda City, it could be considered very bad. But Su Yi had exceeded the king and 70's expectations. He had actually chosen an incomparably desolate area that was 50 kilometers away from Banda City's western suburbs. 70 even thought that Su Yi was crazy. Although based on the map, this place was between Banda City, Saltan City, and Karma City, being around the same distance from the 3 cities, it was still over 50 kilometers away from the closest Banda City. With such a long distance, even if New Flyer built a factory here and produced large amounts of magic machines, if they wanted to transport these magic machines to the city, there was no doubt that it would cost a large amount of transport costs. Thinking of how 70 persuaded him back then, Su Yi couldn't help smiling. Although 70 was truly thinking for New Flyer, she didn't know about Su Yi's overall plan, so she could only be anxious for nothing. Su Yi stood up and walked in front of the map. He first looked at the large piece of land marked in light red before looking at the upper left side of the land. Finally, he stopped at a place where a forest, a river, and a mountain met. That forest was the Falling Rain Forest. Those 2 mountains were the transverse mountain range where the Norma tribe, the Angola tribe, and the other dwarven tribes lived. That river was naturally the sandy river that went through the Falling Rain Forest, but because of the silt, it had changed its course. Su Yi's eyes fell on the new settlement that Chief Saluka and Chief Monto had chosen after discussing with Su. In this place, the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce had sent out large amounts of people, working hard to build houses one after another. After 2 months of construction, this new settlement that was over 10,000 square meters and had over 1,000 dwarven houses had taken shape. Once it was finished, according to the estimates of the 2 dwarven chiefs, it could hold over 3,000 dwarves at the same time. Not only could it let the Norma tribe and the Angola tribe move in, it could also leave over half of the houses for the other dwarven tribes. His eyes followed the dried-up, sandy river to the upper left side of the map, and he could see the Falling Rain Forest where the Night Song tribe was hiding. In these 2 months, the elves hadn't been idle. According to Su Yi's request, they had been researching the resin while the elves and the human experts that Su Yi had sent out to investigate the upper reaches of the Sandy River. After a month of investigation, they had finally decided on a complete management plan. The one in charge of this project was still the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce that had gradually grasped the various uses of cement could be considered the only company in signs that could follow Su Yi's request and use reinforced concrete to build a strong dam on the Sandy River. Although the Sandy River was not particularly large, the construction period was still tentatively set at 2 years or even more. Su Yi didn't have a way to deal with this since Signs didn't have as many large-scale construction machines as Earth, and the New Flyer didn't have enough mature magic machine technology to make these machines. But as this project progressed, Sue-yi requested the company's research department to study the related magic machines according to the progress of the project. Perhaps they would be able to develop one or two in the future. For example, the magic concrete mixer didn't require much technology, but it had already been developed and given to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce to use. Because the results were good, Chairman Corys had placed an order for 100 of them. Elder Alicia didn't feel that this project would take a long time. For the elves who lived for several hundred years, 2 years passed in the blink of an eye and wasn't considered anything at all. Moreover, the Nightsong tribe had plenty of underground water to use, so they weren't in a rush to change the river like before. Looking over the map, Sue-yi reached out a finger to point at Banta City on the map. Then he dragged his finger from Banta City and drew a straight line that passed through the new flyer factory. Then he looked at the rented land and the new dwarven tribe before finally entering the falling rainforest. At the very least, we need to build a real road to connect these places. Sue-yi muttered to himself before dragging his finger to create 2 more branches from the rented land, connecting to Saltan City and Karma City. Other than this, we still need 2 more roads. According to Sue-yi's plan, this rented land would become a new flyer's most important large-scale production base in the future. It would take care of most of the tasks of producing magic machines in the new flyer. For a production base, the most important thing was convenient transportation. So Sue-yi's first thought was to build several roads, and not the normal roads like the ones and signs that were made of gravel and mud. Of course, this plan couldn't be completed in a short period of time. Right now, it could only exist in Sue-yi's mind. For now, the new flyer's production base was still the factory that Sue-yi was currently in. All right, there's still the factory outside Karma City. Seeing Heinz come in, Sue-yi calmly added in his heart. Then he asked Heinz with a smile, "Hey Heinz, are you setting off?" Heinz's calm face actually revealed a trace of nervousness. After circling around the office twice, he asked Sue-yi, "Sue-yi, you're really not planning on coming with me?" Sue-yi said with a smile, "Why should I go? Didn't we already agree that you'll be in charge of Karma City and I won't meddle? Then again, I already went to the opening ceremony the day before yesterday. If I go now, the people there will misunderstand and it won't be a good thing for your management there." "I know what you said makes sense, but..." Heinz smiled bitterly. Heinz said with a bitter smile, "Sue-yi, I've never managed such a large place before. I really am a bit nervous." Sue-yi couldn't help but laugh. "Didn't you heroically say that you'll work hard to share my responsibilities and take over the factory in Karma City by yourself? Now you're telling me that you're nervous? All right, no one is born capable. You see, I don't have any experience in managing a chamber of commerce. Isn't New Flyer still developing well? That's not the same. You have talent, I don't." "What talent? Isn't management all the same? If you can manage a few hundred people in a workshop, then you can definitely manage the entire factory in Karma City." Sue-yi patted Heinz's shoulder and said, "All right, let's set off. Today is the official start of work. If you, the factory director, are late, then you'll really lose face." "Then I'll set off?" Heinz asked with some uncertainty. Sue-yi couldn't help shaking his head with a smile. He forcefully pushed him out of the office and into the already prepared horse carriage. Seeing Heinz's horse carriage disappear into the distance, Sue-yi shook his head. When he was about to go to the magic machine workshop to take a look, he suddenly saw another horse carriage coming from the distance. It directly stopped in front of Sue-yi. When the horse carriage stopped, a familiar figure jumped out of the horse carriage and threw herself into Sue-yi's embrace with a fragrant wind. Feeling 2 warm lips on his face, Sue-yi said in a surprised voice, "Steele, why are you here?" It was different from when the 2 of them had just established their relationship. Now that Steele had adapted to their relationship, she had regained her warm personality. Even in front of others, she didn't hide it at all. She was so bold that it made Sue-yi's face turn red sometimes. But Sue-yi's personality was a bit passive in this aspect, so he enjoyed Steele's method more. "I brought a special guest. Look." Steele pointed at the horse carriage with a smile. Special guest. Sui looked at the horse carriage and saw a middle-aged magician wearing a magician's robe who had the shrewd aura of a merchant jumping out. Seeing Sui look over, the middle-aged magician said with a faint smile, "Hello, Chairman Sui. Let me introduce myself. I am Gordon Eisenkel." Chapter 149. Gordon? Eisenkel? Sui was instantly surprised. This middle-aged man, who looked like a shrewd merchant, was actually the rumored richest magician in the Lampari Kingdom. Gordon? Eisenkel. Hello, great magician Eisenkel. Sui quickly gave the other side a standard magician's greeting, while curiously looking over the other side's clothes. It was different from the rumors. This great magician Eisenkel's clothes were very simple. Other than a normal dark black magic robe, there was only a strange bracelet on his wrist. However, when Sui saw this bracelet, his eyes couldn't help shrinking. If he wasn't wrong, this bracelet was a rare natural magic accessory. Natural magic accessories were very rare in signs, and they all had special effects, so each one could be considered a top-grade treasure. Although Sui didn't know what this bracelet was, since it was worn by a great magician like Eisenkel, it was definitely a special natural magic accessory. If it was auctioned, it would be worth at least 100,000 gold coins. If Sui thought that great magician Eisenkel was simple when he first saw him, if anyone were to say that great magician Eisenkel was simple now, he would immediately spit at them. Simple? Was your family's simple treasure worth 100,000 gold coins? Not to mention that this was only the place Sui could see. God knows what other treasures great magician Eisenkel had that he couldn't see. But only great magician Eisenkel dared to do this. If anyone else dared to openly wear such a valuable thing on their body, they would have had their hands cut off and snatched away. A series of strange thoughts floated in Sui's mind. When he stood up again, he had a standard polite smile on his face. "Your Excellency, great magician Eisenkel, you suddenly came to our Banta city. You should be here to visit great magician Camilla, right? Why are you here?" Sui asked. Great magician Eisenkel looked at Steele holding Sui's hand and revealed a faint smile before shaking his head. "No. On the surface, I'm here to visit Camilla, but the reason I'm here this time is for Chairman Sui. Sui was surprised. He turned to look at Steele and found that she didn't have a surprised expression at all. It seemed like she already knew about this. Your Excellency, great magician Eisenkel specially came for me. I'm really flattered. But I don't know why Your Excellency, great magician, is looking for me." Great magician Eisenkel smiled without replying. "Chairman Sui, you're not inviting me in? Do you want to tour this factory?" Sui asked in surprise. Great magician Eisenkel was surprised. "Right? I came this time for them." Sui looked at great magician Eisenkel with a strange gaze. After thinking about it, he made an inviting gesture to him. "Please come with me." An hour later, great magician Eisenkel finished his tour and came to the office with Sui and Steele. Seeing Steele consciously pouring water for the two of them, great magician Eisenkel said with a smile, "Last time I came to Banta City to visit great magician Camilla, Steele was still a 10-year-old girl. I never thought that in the blink of an eye, you would have already become a girl who has an outstanding boyfriend and is about to get married." Sui revealed an awkward smile. Steele calmly placed the water in front of great magician Eisenkel and said with a faint smile, "Great magician Eisenkel, you're already old." Great magician Eisenkel laughed. "Right? I'm already old. This world is already the world of you young people. Look, I wanted to apply magic to people's daily lives many years ago, but I never had a clue and I never had the energy or time to do it. I never thought that Chairman Sui would use less than a year to realize the concept of using magic, and it has already entered people's hearts. I really am ashamed of my inferiority." Great magician Eisenkel, you are too modest. Sui replied before asking, "Your Excellency, great magician, do you care about the practical application of magic?" "Yes." Great magician Eisenkel nodded. Great magician Eisenkel nodded. If it wasn't for the fact that I care about the application of magic, I wouldn't have earned this much money. If I didn't earn this much money, my magic power wouldn't have reached this level. Actually, this is a very simple principle, but I'm very curious why there aren't many magicians who understand it. Steele couldn't help asking in a curious voice, "Great magician Eisenkel, you mean that you're working hard to earn money because you want to increase your magic power? You can't completely say that. My meaning is that magic doesn't conflict with making money. Since you have to spend money to become a powerful magician, why don't you connect the research of magic with making money?" Great magician Eisenkel said with a sigh, "I don't understand why so many people in the same profession are so arrogant. It's like connecting magic with making money is a stain on magic. They don't think about it properly. If they don't have money, they can't even do magic research. So how can they increase their strength? Just by guessing?" Steele slightly knit her brows. "Great magician Eisenkel, why do I feel like you're talking about my grandfather?" Great magician Eisenkel laughed. "That's right. I'm talking about your grandfather. Of course, I'm talking about him from before. As for now, when I came here this time, I found that your grandfather seemed to have changed into a different person. Not only did he not treat me with disdain like before, he even took the initiative to discuss the application of magic with me. Speaking of this should be all thanks to Chairman Su, right?" He gave a shrug. "If he didn't see the practical help that magic can bring to people, I feel that this old man wouldn't have changed his mind that easily." The practical help you're talking about, are you talking about the magic machines that your new flyer produces? Great magician Eisenkel asked. "Pretty much." He was silent for a bit before asking, "Great magician Eisenkel, let's talk about your goal in coming to find me this time. For a great magician like you to suddenly come here, I think it shouldn't be for a small matter, right?" Chairman Su really is impatient. "All right, let's stop chatting and get down to business. I came this time mainly to discuss cooperation with Chairman Su." Great magician Eisenkel said with a faint smile. "Cooperation?" And Steele looked at each other, seeing the surprise in each other's eyes. "What kind of cooperation can we have? Since you can cooperate with Camilla, why can't you cooperate with me?" Great magician Eisenkel asked back. "You mean, you want to cooperate with me in researching magic machines?" He asked in an uncertain voice. "That's right. I'm very interested in your idea of combining magic and machines, so I feel that there is a need to deeply research this. If you can do it well, I even feel that you can change the entire signs with this." Great magician Eisenkel said in an impassioned voice. Although what he said matched Suyi's inner thoughts, without knowing why, Yi didn't feel any excitement from having his thoughts understood at all. After thinking for a bit, Yi asked, "Then great magician Eisenkel, how are you planning on cooperating?" "It's very simple. I'll provide my magician resources, and you'll provide your new flyer's experience in researching magic machines. We'll cooperate fully and research all the methods of replacing human labor with magic machines. With the strength of both sides, I believe that we can definitely develop this research by leaps and bounds. Think about it. If we can develop more and more magic machines, filling the entire signs with magic machines, how enticing would that be?" He still couldn't be moved by great magician Eisenkel's impassioned words at all. After pausing, he asked, "Then how will the results of this research be calculated?" "Of course it's shared by both of us. This is the result of our hard work." Great magician Eisenkel said with a straightforward look. Great magician Eisenkel said with a happy expression, "Right, I've already worked with several great magicians a month ago to formally propose a proposal to the Sorcerers Guild to monopolize magic research. According to the latest news, it's very likely that the Guild will pass this proposal. This means that the research results of our cooperation will belong to us alone, and you won't need to worry about other people taking your research results." After saying this, great magician Eisenkel took out a piece of paper from his chest and opened it in front of Yi. There was a picture on it, and it was actually a magic fan drawn on it. "Look, this is a magic fan developed by a small company in Anvilmar City. It's basically the same as the magic fan of your new flyer. I feel that if your new flyer wants to sell their magic fans to Ambilmar City, you won't be able to compete with them. But if the proposal of monopolizing magic research passes, we can strictly order any magician to work for this company. Otherwise, it will be going against the rules of the guild, and they will be punished. Sui looked at the magic fan on the picture and gave a slight nod. Indeed, with this protective measure, it will be much better. So, Chairman Su, cooperate with me. As long as we let the people of the guild see the benefits of using magic, they will happily pass this proposal. Sui looked at Great Magician Eisenkel with an expectant look, and he couldn't help giving a cold laugh in his heart. What cooperation? Perhaps Great Magician Eisenkel could really rely on his magic skills as a magician to help with the magic machine research. But in terms of magic research, it wasn't just Great Magician Eisenkel who could help. In other words, he wasn't unique. But Su Yi's side was completely different. New Flyer, or more accurately, Su Yi's magic machine knowledge was unique in the signs. It was knowledge that no one else could have, so there was no one who could replace Su Yi. One could replace him, and the other couldn't, so it was impossible for both sides to be placed in the same position. Great Magician Eisenkel's words were very nice, saying that he could use his own resources to help New Flyer with their magic research. But he also said that the research results would be shared between both sides. It seemed good at first, but in Su Yi's eyes, Great Magician Eisenkel clearly wanted to obtain mechanical knowledge from Su Yi that he didn't have. Su Yi was certain that as long as he agreed to this cooperation, once Great Magician Eisenkel felt that he had enough mechanical knowledge, he would definitely kick Su Yi aside. This kind of cooperation request, unless Su Yi was an idiot, he would only agree. However, after Su Yi seriously considered it, he nodded to Great Magician Eisenkel. Your Excellency, Great Magician, I hope that we can have a happy cooperation. Chapter 150. 3 days later, when Great Magician Eisenkel left Bana City, he had an unsatisfied look on his face. Although Su Yi had verbally agreed to cooperate with him, in these 3 days of talks, Su Yi had stubbornly held onto the technology the Frestech Chamber of Commerce had developed and wasn't willing to share it at all. When agreeing to this cooperation, Su Yi had only hoped that Great Magician Eisenkel's side would be in charge of the magic array research. He didn't let them participate in the mechanical design research at all. In other words, even if he cooperated with Su Yi, Great Magician Eisenkel's side would only be researching magic and magic arrays, which was no different from before. He wouldn't be able to participate in the design of the magic machines like Great Magician Eisenkel wanted, grasping the technology related to the magic machines. Great Magician Eisenkel was helpless against Su Yi's insistence because Su Yi wasn't an idiot, so it was impossible for him to agree to all his requests. After considering it, Great Magician Eisenkel wasn't angry because of Su Yi's insistence. Rather, he agreed to cooperate with Su Yi in the end, because no matter what, they could share the results of their research. If Great Magician Eisenkel's side also began researching magic machines, they would be a step ahead of the other companies. Su Yi, you should know that Great Magician Eisenkel has his own company in Ambilmar City, which is much bigger than the Frestech Chamber of Commerce in terms of scale and background. If you agree to share your research like this, aren't you afraid that he will use his advantage to make the same magic machines and squeeze out New Flyer's products? After sending Great Magician Eisenkel off, Steele couldn't help asking Su Yi this in a worried voice when they returned to the office. Su Yi revealed a smile, but he didn't reply to Steele's question. He went to the corner of the office and took out a magic rice cooker. Do you see this? Su Yi pointed at the magic rice cooker as he asked this. See what? Isn't this just a magic rice cooker? Steele was a bit confused. I'm asking you to pay attention to the sign above, Su Yi said again. Steele doubtfully looked at the lower half of the magic rice cooker and was surprised to find that although this magic rice cooker looked the same as the New Flyer magic rice cooker on the lower half of the switch, it didn't have the familiar Shinfei brand's half wing. Rather, it had an angry bull engraved on it. Is this the replica? Strictly speaking, it can't be considered an imitation. He opened the lid of the magic rice cooker and revealed the inside to Steele. Look, this magic rice cooker, whether it is the outer appearance, the internal structure, or even the quality of the process, it's all around the same as our Shinfei brand magic rice cooker. If it's an imitation, it's just too good. Actually, I'm more willing to call it another brand of magic rice cooker. What difference is there? Isn't it just an imitation of our Shinfei brand magic rice cooker? Steele curled her lips and spoke in a voice filled with disdain. Of course there's a difference. It's very hard for a normal imitation to have the same quality, but this Bull brand magic rice cooker's quality is around the same as our Shinfei brand magic rice cooker. There's even a bit of innovation. Other than a magic rice cooker in my hand, there are other models of this Bull brand magic rice cooker. The only difference is the capacity. Su-yi said with a smile. Steele took the Bull brand magic rice cooker from Su-yi's hand and carefully looked it over. She found that the quality of this Bull brand magic rice cooker wasn't bad. It was no different from the Shinfei brand magic rice cooker. Looking at Su-yi again, she found that he still had a happy smile on his face. Steele couldn't help asking in a confused voice, Su-yi, you can still smile? With such a good quality magic rice cooker, the Shinfei brand magic rice cooker will face strong competition. Aren't you worried at all? Why would I be worried? Su-yi revealed a faint smile. Competition is a good thing. Actually, I really want to see more companies that can compete with our new flyer on the continent. Only like this can the magic machines become popular on the signs and the magic machine industry enter the hearts of the people, making it easier for my dream to come true. Steele reached out to touch Su-yi's forehead. What nonsense are you saying if you don't have a fever? Don't forget, New Flyer isn't the strongest first-class company on the continent right now. If there are more competitors, aren't you afraid that New Flyer will be squeezed out? As for your dream of establishing an industrial system on the continent, even if it comes true, it won't be done by you, so you won't be happy about it. Oh, that's right. If one's dream isn't realized by one's own hands, there isn't any meaning. So, Sui gave a laugh and reached out to touch Steele's face. Beautiful and charming young Miss Steele, I'll have to trouble you to do another advertisement for me. Hashtag April 1st. It was a very strange day on Earth, but it wasn't anything special on the signs. It didn't affect people's lives at all. But today's Banna City was a bit different. Early in the morning, there was a group of people that came to the business street to the west of the city. This street that was considered wide was completely filled, and not even a drop of water could flow through. The other merchants on the street weren't surprised at all when they saw this, because they had learned from the Banta Times that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce was holding a product announcement at the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's service center on this street. This new flyer really knew how to cause trouble. Wasn't it just developing a new product? Why did they have to hold a conference and bring all these people here to announce it? It was completely because they had nothing better to do. But people had to admit that the Frestec Chamber of Commerce's popularity in Banna City and the surrounding cities was very high. They just wanted to tell everyone that they had developed a new product, but they had attracted all kinds of people to come early in the morning to watch. As far as the eye could see, apart from a bunch of idlers who had come to watch the fun, there was also a large group of shrewd businessmen who were crowded on this street. Most of them came from the surrounding cities. Other than Saltan City and Karma City that were closest to Banna City, there were also merchants from Canberra City and Norton City that were even further away. It could be seen that New Flyer's influence was starting to spread beyond Banna City, gradually spreading to even further places. Other than this, there were 10 people with special auras and clothes in the crowd. These 10 people were divided into several groups, and there was a trace of hostility when they looked at each other. If someone familiar saw them, they would recognize that these people were reporters from newspapers that had appeared in Saltan City and Karma City recently. Among them are the most famous Saltan Morning News and the Karma Times in these two cities. Speaking of reporters, this was a concept proposed by the Banta Times. It was said that they were workers who gathered news for the newspaper, and after the popularity of the Banta Times, in half a year, this job was already accepted by people. The Banta Times was very popular in Banna City, so the reporters of the Banta Times were very respected in Banda City. They all looked very prestigious when they walked out. There were many educated young people in Banda City who were willing to become reporters for the Banda Times. There was even a Banta City Lord Viscount's son who was a reporter for the Banda Times. Of course, the newspapers in Sultan City and Karma City weren't that famous in Banda City, so there weren't many people who recognized these people. They came this time naturally for the new Flyers product announcement. Even in Sultan City and Karma City, the new flyer was the focus of everyone's attention. It wouldn't be wrong to publish news related to the new flyer in the newspapers. In the past 2 months, the Karma Times had followed up on the new flyer's investment in a factory near Karma City, which attracted the attention of many people in Karma City. It also increased the attention the Karma Times received in Karma City and increased their sales. It was also because of this that the city lord Count Anaris paid special attention to them. So for any news related to the new flyer, the Karma Times wouldn't let it go. Seeing the colleagues of the Sultan Morning News desperately trying to squeeze into the Sheen-Face Service Center, the Karma Times vice editor Ryan waved his hand and signaled for his 2 subordinates to squeeze in, trying to get a better spot. However, at this time, there was a commotion in the crowd. "Look, Chairman Sue is coming out." "Ah, God above, who else am I looking at?" "Young Miss Steele." "God, I'm so happy. I can actually see her." "Oh no, young Miss Steele is actually holding hands with Chairman Sue. Are they already in a relationship? That's impossible." "Why is it impossible? Young Miss Steele is so beautiful. Other than Chairman Sue, can you find me someone who is worthy of her?" But young Miss Steele is the goddess in my heart. How can she be in a relationship?" "No, I want to die." "Go away. Go die. No one is stopping you. There's a spot." Hearing the conversation in the crowd, Ryan jumped up and saw that the entrance of the Sheen-Face Service Center, Sue was indeed holding hands with Steele and looking at the crowd with a smile. Seeing this scene, even Ryan couldn't help feeling a bit disappointed. He shook his head and woke up. The goddess Steele in the hearts of many people in Banda City, Sultan City, and Karma City was actually in a relationship with the new Flyers chairman Sue. This might be even more explosive news than the Frestac Chamber of Commerce's product announcement. Chapter 151. Seeing the intense reactions of the crowd, Sue couldn't help saying to Steele with a smile, "Steele, if you appear with me today, perhaps you'll lose quite a bit of fans." Steele gave a soft snort. She flicked her beautiful blonde hair and said with a proud look, "So what if it's less? I don't care. I just want to tell everyone that I have someone I like now." Seeing Steele's high-spirited and confident appearance, Sue couldn't help laughing as his mood became very good. If it was any other girl, it would be very hard for them to openly announce their relationship in front of all these people like Steele. Not to mention that Steele was very famous in Banda City and the surrounding cities, being the goddess in the hearts of many men. Announcing their relationship like this would definitely be a large blow to her fans. If it was the small stars from Earth, they definitely wouldn't choose to do this. Of course, there were some small stars who would deliberately create some gossip to increase their exposure. Is Steele and I considered gossip? Sue couldn't help thinking of this question. Perhaps it is. After all, the two of us can be considered public figures no matter what. Thinking of how, because of the Frestac Chamber of Commerce, he could be considered a star that wasn't too big or too small, Sue couldn't help revealing a bitter smile. He shook his head and calmed himself down. He looked over the noisy people under the stairs and raised his right hand. It was like there was some magic that when Sue raised his hand, the people closest to him instantly fell silent. They all looked at him and didn't say a word. Then this silence quickly spread in all directions. After a while, the very noisy business street fell into silence as everyone's eyes gathered in Sue's direction. Towards this effect, Sue was a bit surprised and also very happy. He gave a soft cough and said in a loud voice, "Hello, everyone. I'm the new Flyers chairman, Sue. Thank you all for coming to our new Flyers product announcement. This is our new Flyers first product announcement, and I believe that this is the first product announcement of a company in Banda City. The so-called product launch was specifically used to announce new products. At this product announcement, I will be introducing a new product that our new flyer is about to release. It's called the Automatic Magic Rice Cooker. There was an uproar at the bottom of the steps. Everyone knew about the Magic Rice Cooker. It was a household magic machine developed by New Flyer to cook rice. There were many people here who had one or two at home. But what was the Automatic Magic Rice Cooker? What did it mean to add the attribute automatic? Chairman Sue, can you explain what this Automatic Magic Rice Cooker means? In the crowd, a reporter from the Saltan Morning News raised his hand as he loudly asked this. Sue, he looked at the reporter and recognized him from the pen and notebook in his hand. He nodded with a smile and explained, the so-called Automatic Magic Rice Cooker is for the magic rice cooker our company made before. Although the previous Magic Rice Cooker was very convenient for cooking rice, it had a flaw, which was that the person who used it had to calculate the time to turn it off. As for the Automatic Magic Rice Cooker, you just need to add the appropriate amount of rice and water and press the switch. You don't need to care about anything else. Then wouldn't the rice be burnt? The reporter from the Saltan Morning News asked the question in everyone's heart. Of course not. As long as the rice in the Automatic Magic Rice Cooker is cooked, it will automatically turn off and won't keep cooking, so you don't need to worry about the rice being burnt. So he replied. As soon as his voice fell, there was another uproar at the bottom of the steps. How is that possible? That's right, the Magic Rice Cooker is just a lump of iron. How could it know when the rice will be cooked? That's right, this is too incredible. Is this a lie? It shouldn't be a lie, right? In front of all these people, why would he lie like this? Does he not want the company's reputation? But this is too fake. How could he turn it off and not cook it? Let's see what he says next. The magic machines that New Flyer made before were quite amazing. Perhaps they'll make something even more amazing. That's right. Seeing everyone discuss this, Sue revealed a faint smile. He waved his hand behind him, and two staff members from the service center who were already prepared came out with a new Automatic Magic Rice Cooker, a bowl of rice, and a small bucket of water. Seeing the new Automatic Magic Rice Cooker in the hands of the staff members, everyone revealed looks of surprise again. This time, the vice editor-in-chief Ryan of the Karma Times rushed in front of the reporter from the Saltan Morning News to ask, Chairman Sue, is this the Automatic Magic Rice Cooker you mentioned? Why is it silver? Could it be that you've plated it with silver? Everyone saw that the outside of the Automatic Magic Rice Cooker was indeed a layer of silvery white. Moreover, it looked very natural and very beautiful, making people unable to help liking it. Compared to the black and red Magic Rice Cooker that New Flyer made before that looked like a lump of iron, this Automatic Magic Rice Cooker looked at least 10 times better. Plated with silver? Sue, he shook his head. No, of course it's impossible. The Magic Rice Cooker is used to cook rice. If it's plated with silver, it's very likely that the silver will enter the rice, and if it's eaten, it will be harmful to the human body. Our New Flyer's household magic machines pay great attention to protecting the health of the human body. So how could this kind of mistake happen? Then why is it this silver-white color? I've never heard of a metal of this color before. Ryan asked. Sue, you really want to call him ignorant. There were many silver metals, and other than silver, the most common one was aluminum. Even pure iron was silver, so it couldn't be considered rare at all. But thinking about it, there weren't many aluminum ores and signs, and pure iron couldn't be refined, so this Ryan's ignorance couldn't be considered his fault. Then I'll have to make a formal introduction. This Automatic Magic Rice Cooker is a new product that our New Flyer has been working hard on recently. Other than using a new process, it has the ability to automatically cook rice. It is also made with our company's newly developed alloy steel, which is even more advanced than the previous generation Magic Rice Cooker. So, he said, alloy steel? What is that? Even Ryan, who thought that he had seen many things, was a bit confused, not to mention the other people in the crowd. The so-called alloy steel is mainly made of iron, but there are some other things added to it. The alloy steel used to make this Automatic Magic Rice Cooker is called silver leaf steel. Other than the beautiful silver color of the steel, It also has a very outstanding property, which is that it won't rust. The crowd went into an uproar again. Won't rust. How is that possible? That's right. As long as it's something made of iron, how could it not rust? This chairman, Sue, should have a limit to his boasting, right? He already said that this silver leaf steel was made of iron. So how could it not rust? Huh. Iron not rusting, this is simply the biggest joke I've heard in my life. Hearing the discussions under the stage, Sue smiled without saying a thing. When everyone calmed down, he continued, "Of course, the advantage of rust can't be seen in a short period of time. Now let's see the other advantages of this automatic magic rice cooker made of silver leaf steel." Looking over the stage, Sue asked a man with decent clothes who was closer to him, "This mister, has your family bought our Sheen Fei brand magic rice cooker before?" The man was stunned before quickly nodding. "Of course I have. Not only does our family have your Sheen Fei brand magic rice cooker, we also have the Sheen Fei brand magic fan. When it was too cold in winter, we were forced by our wife to buy a Sheen Fei brand variable temperature magic air conditioner. Adding in the two Sheen Fei brand magic lamps that we bought a few days ago, our house is now filled with your new Flyers things." Sue laughed. "It seems like you're an important customer of our new Flyer, so I represent New Flyer in thanking you for your support. Come, since your family bought our first-generation magic rice cooker, now you can take this new automatic magic rice cooker and see if there are any differences between them." The man took the automatic magic rice cooker from Su Yi's hands and revealed a surprised look. This is so light. Let me see. It's at least half as light as my family's magic rice cooker. Really? Let me see." Another man beside him took it from him, and after looking it over, he also said in a surprised voice, "That's right, it really is much lighter. Strange, the size is the same and the thickness is the same. So why is it so much lighter? I say, Chairman Sue, this automatic magic rice cooker of yours, it can't be that you cut corners, right?" Sue, he couldn't help laughing. "Of course not. Our new Flyers products are all guaranteed quality. So how could we cut corners? The reason why this automatic magic rice cooker is much lighter than the first-generation magic rice cooker is because of the silver leaf steel. This steel is indeed lighter than normal pig iron, but there's no need to worry. Its hardness isn't inferior to pig iron at all. Come, I'll demonstrate it for you." Sue took the automatic magic rice cooker back from that person, and in front of everyone, he raised it high up. Then in front of everyone's shocked cries, he let go. Pong! The automatic magic rice cooker slammed onto the steps in front of Sue and bounced half a meter before falling down again, rolling down the steps with a clang. The people around the steps saw the automatic magic rice cooker rolling over, and they all moved aside like they were avoiding a fierce beast. But their eyes were still staring at it, like a monster would jump out of the automatic magic rice cooker at any moment. After a while, seeing that there was no movement, the man from before gathered his courage and came forward to pick up the automatic magic rice cooker. After carefully looking it over for a while, he couldn't help shouting with a shocked face, "It can't be. It's actually not broken at all." When the surrounding people heard this, they all came over. However, when they looked over the automatic magic rice cooker from top to bottom, they really couldn't find a single flaw on it. Other than the two scratches on the outer shell, this automatic magic rice cooker was completely the same as a new one. Everyone couldn't help looking at Sue in shock. This automatic magic rice cooker, wasn't it too amazing? Sue took back the automatic magic rice cooker and said to everyone with a smile, "All right, now that everyone has seen how sturdy it is, I'll show everyone the most important function of the automatic magic rice cooker, which is to cook rice." Sue placed the automatic magic rice cooker on the table to the side, and in front of everyone, he poured the prepared rice into it. Then he added an appropriate amount of water and closed the lid before finally pressing the switch. Ding! With a soft sound, a small window on the automatic magic rice cooker that no one knew what it was for suddenly lit up with a bright red flame. Sue pointed at the red flame and said, "Everyone look carefully. When this window lights up with red flame, it means that the magic rice cooker is cooking. When it disappears, it means that the magic rice cooker is no longer working." Everyone couldn't help secretly nodding. Although this design didn't seem very remarkable, it was very considerate and practical. It could be seen that New Flyer had put a lot of thought into the design of the automatic magic rice cooker. Sui looked at the automatic magic rice cooker before turning to everyone. There's still some time before the rice is ready. I know that everyone must have many questions, so during this time, I ask everyone to ask as much as they want. I will do my best to answer. As soon as Su Yi's voice fell, Ryan shouted in a loud voice, "Chairman Su, I have a question. Please ask. I found that you and young Miss Steele were holding hands when you came out. May I ask, what is your relationship with young Miss Steele? Are you two already lovers?" When this question was asked, everyone fell into a deathly silence. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.